Welcome to a universe of mystery, the gateway to exploring the inexplicable and the unresolved. In today's extensive compilation, we journey into the heart of perplexity, uncovering a series of chilling disappearances that echo through the corridors of time and memory. Imagine the vibrant, pulsating streets of America's greatest cities, Los Angeles, New York, St. Louis. Now picture the serene, deceptive vastness of the nation's national parks. These contrasting backdrops serve as silent witnesses to cases shrouded in mystery, where each vanished individual leaves behind a tapestry of unanswered questions and haunting voids. As we navigate these tales, we find ourselves meandering through a labyrinth of the unknown, where every turn unveils a new layer of intrigue and complexity. The stories we unveil are not just accounts of missing persons. They are intricate puzzles that defy explanation, challenging our understanding of the possible and the impossible. Each narrative is a window into the world where certainties fade and the line between reality and the inexplicable becomes unsettlingly thin. Tonight, as the moon casts its glow and the world quiets to a whisper, join us on this perplexing journey. We invite you into the realm of shadows and whispers, where the only certainty is the palpable sense of mystery that hangs in the air like a dense fog. Here, we confront the unknown and dare to ask the questions that linger long after the searches have ended. The mysterious disappearance of Felicia Cochrane from Pell City, Alabama, on July 11, 1992. Remains etched in the memories of those who knew her and those who have since learned of her unsettling fate. At 26 years old, Felicia's life took an unforeseen and dark turn, leaving behind a trail of questions and a family grappling for answers. That summer evening, Felicia, living with her mother, made a seemingly routine decision to visit a beauty salon. She extended an invitation to her 10-year-old daughter to join her, an invitation her daughter declined, choosing to stay home. Unbeknownst to the daughter, this would be the last opportunity she would get to see her mother. Felicia departed her home around 6 p.m., driving her gray 1987 Nissan Sentra toward Birmingham. However, her intended visit to the salon never materialized. In a concerning twist, witnesses reported seeing Felicia engaged in what appeared to be a serious argument with an unidentified individual in the salon's parking lot. This confrontation was alarming enough to prompt witnesses to contact the authorities. The police, responding to the 911 call, arrived at the scene only to find no sign of Felicia. The situation escalated in severity when, a few hours later, Felicia's car was discovered in a remote area of Talladega County. The vehicle was found burned out, a sinister clue that suggested foul play, yet it offered no tangible leads to Felicia's whereabouts. Felicia's family had been vocal about their suspicions regarding the identity of the person they believed is responsible for her disappearance. Despite their assertions, the case remains without any formal charges or identified suspects, adding a layer of frustration and helplessness to their grief. Described in her missing report as a woman with black hair, brown eyes, standing 5'3" tall, and weighing around 135 pounds, Felicia might have been wearing eyeglasses at the time of her disappearance. Her physical description, circulated in hopes of finding her, paints a picture of an ordinary woman caught in a tragic circumstance. The years following Felicia's disappearance have seen her family and the local community in Pell City grappling with the unknown. The lack of closure and the enduring mystery surrounding her fate leaves a mark on those who continue to seek answers. Her case, still open and actively investigated, stands as a testament to the enduring hope that one day the truth will come to light. The Pell City Police Department remains committed to solving this case, urging anyone with information about Felicia's whereabouts or the events leading to her disappearance to come forward. Her story, transcending the boundaries of a mere case file, represents a life interrupted and a family's unyielding search for closure and justice. Felicia's disappearance is not just a local mystery, but a human story that resonates with the fear and uncertainty that accompany unexplained losses. It serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of community vigilance in the face of such tragedies. The night of July 28, 2012, marked the beginning of a perplexing case in the disappearance of Kortne Stouffer. Then, 21 years old, Kortne's life in Pennsylvania was full of energy and enthusiasm. Living with her boyfriend, Brad, and their 2 dogs, she worked as a dog groomer and part-time at her father's recycling equipment business. Known for her vibrant personality, Kortne's life was a balance of lively and quiet moments, especially with Brad, who was more reserved. Kortne's close relationship with her family, especially her parents, was a significant part of her life. She had a strong connection with them, often helping her set up her living arrangements for her studies. In July of 2012, she was living in a duplex apartment in Deerfield, not far from her parents' home. The events leading to Kortne's disappearance began with a gathering at her apartment on July 28th. What started as a social get-together escalated into a noisy party, resulting in the police being called due to the disturbance. This led to Brad's arrest for violating probation terms. He was underage, drinking, and already on probation for a prior offense. Distraught over Brad's arrest, Kortne reached out to her mother, Wendy, but chose not to stay with her. Instead, Kortne decided to go to a bar in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania with 2 friends, Cody and Milton. Once close to Cody and Milton, Kortne had distanced herself after starting her relationship with Brad. At the bar, they encountered Harvard Brow and his girlfriend. Kortne and Harvard had a strained relationship, with Kortne accusing him of breaking into her apartment weeks earlier. This altercation at the bar led to Kortne being asked to leave. The exact sequence of events following the bar incident varies in reports. Some sources indicate that Kortne left alone before texting Cody and Milton for a ride. Others suggest they left together, with Cody dropping Kortne off at her car and following her back to her apartment. Back at the apartment, around 3 a.m., Kortne confronted Todd, a neighbor, accusing him of calling the police on Brad. Cody intervened to defuse the situation, but the police were called again. After calming everyone down, the police left at around 3:50 a.m., with Kortne and Cody in her apartment. According to Cody, Kortne was still agitated, leading to another noise complaint. By 4:15 a.m., when the police returned, the apartment was quiet. Cody claimed they both went to sleep with him on the couch. Cody woke at around 7 a.m. because he had to work the next morning. In the living room, he found no sign of Kortne and assumed she went to sleep in the other bedroom. He left for work after stopping at a store and texting Kortne. A full day passed before the alarm was raised about Kortne's disappearance. Her mother, Wendy, upon visiting the apartment, found the door open and Kortne's belongings untouched. Money on the counter, keys on the floor, and her cell phone charging. However, Kortne was nowhere to be seen. The police investigation began, but no evidence of a crime was found in Kortne's apartment. There was no sign of a struggle, and a search of the surrounding area yielded no clues. Suspicion fell on various individuals connected to Kortne that night. Todd, the neighbor, became a subject of interest, especially after being seen carrying trash bags from his apartment. However, a search revealed no evidence. Cody, as the last person to see her, was also scrutinized, but cooperation with the police and searches of his car and home turned up nothing. Years later, a rumor surfaced about 2 men allegedly attacking Kortne and disposing of her body in a lake. However, a search of the lake found nothing, and there was no evidence of a break-in at Kortne's home. Harvard, the man from the bar, was later convicted of unrelated violent crimes, but it was not linked to Kortne's case. Other theories included Kortne being a victim of a serial killer active in Kentucky and the surrounding states, as she fit the profile of other missing young women. Yet, there's no concrete evidence connecting these cases. Kortne Stouffer, if alive today, would be 31 years old. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5 foot 8 inches tall, weighing between 110 and 120 pounds, with long strawberry blonde hair and dreadlocks. Notably, she has several tattoos, including a weapon with flowers on her abdomen, 3 black stars on her right foot, and the phrase "one love" on her right bicep, with the O as a peace symbol and the other O in love as a heart. Kortne's disappearance remains a baffling mystery, leaving her family and friends in search for answers. The Lebanon County Detective Bureau is the point of contact for any information related to Kortne's case. Tyler and Brittany Davis's story began in 2013, a tale of two souls who instantly connected when they met at work. Their bond quickly evolved from friendship into love, leading to Tyler's proposal a few years later. In the fall of 2017, they celebrated their love by getting married and soon after welcomed their son, Aaron, into the world. Brittany often described Tyler as a dedicated family man, kind-hearted, hard-working, and a great provider. Tyler managed a Wendy's restaurant about 30 minutes from their home in Wilmington, Ohio. He was known as a reliable employee, the kind of person who never missed a day of work. Their life together, with their young son and two dogs, was full of promise and joy. However, on February 23rd of 2019, Brittany's 23rd birthday, their lives took an unexpected and alarming turn. The couple overslept that Saturday morning, rushing to make it to Tyler's parents' house in Columbus for a birthday lunch. After the lunch, they planned to leave Aaron with the grandparents and enjoy a night out in Columbus. They arrived at a Hilton hotel in Easton, checked into their room, and made plans for the evening. Brittany was excited about the hotel's prime location, which included an upscale shopping plaza. After spending the evening at a couple of bars, they planned to indulge in a couple's massage and go shopping the next day. That evening, after a leisurely meal, the couple returned to their hotel room to meet Sean Hughes, Tyler's college friend who lived in Columbus. Together, they headed out to Bar Louie, enjoying the lively atmosphere. Brittany recalled that everything felt normal. They were all having a great time, with no indication of the strange turn the night would soon take. As the night progressed, they took an Uber to the Dollhouse, a North Side strip club, and continued their celebration until nearly 3 a.m. Tyler fell asleep in the Uber on the way back to the hotel, and upon arrival, he seemed confused and agitated. He was adamant that they were at the wrong hotel and walked away, with Sean following to ensure his safety. Brittany, perplexed and concerned, went up to their room. After charging her phone briefly, Brittany went down to the lobby, but neither Tyler nor Sean were there. At 3:37 a.m., Tyler called Brittany to apologize for leaving abruptly and said he was just walking around the block and would return soon. Sean appeared soon after and assured Brittany that Tyler was just blowing off some steam and would be back shortly. However, Tyler never returned to the hotel room. At 4:03 a.m., he called Brittany again, mentioning he was walking through some woods and could see the hotel. He assured her he would be back in about 5 minutes. A subsequent call from Tyler was silent before it went dead. Brittany's attempts to reach him after went unanswered. Sean stayed until 4:30 a.m. before leaving, assuming Tyler would return on his own. Brittany thought Tyler might have been picked up by the police for public intoxication and struggled to sleep, staring at her phone, waiting for any news. By 8 a.m., worried and restless, Brittany called a friend in Columbus for help. They drove around looking for Tyler, but found no trace of him. At 9:30 a.m., she called Tyler's parents and then the police. The officers took the missing person report, but suggested that Tyler might have just needed time alone. Brittany knew Tyler would never voluntarily disappear. His father searched the area around the hotel on foot until dark. Brittany returned to the hotel later that day, continuing the search herself. Friends and family distributed missing person flyers, but no clues emerged. It wasn't until 4 days later that the police conducted their first search around the hotel. Surveillance footage from the Hilton showed Tyler walking towards the Easton Commons condominiums, but the trail was lost after he disappeared from view. Tyler's cell phone records indicated he had walked around the Huntington Bank complex on Seltzer Road and attempted to use GPS to return to the Hilton. However, his phone likely died and he never made it back. Despite several searches and investigations, no sign of Tyler was found. Brittany made public pleas for help, and the police acknowledged the case had grown cold. Rumors and theories circulated, but nothing concrete emerged to explain Tyler's disappearance. By October of 2021, with Tyler still missing and no new leads, Brittany petitioned to have him declared legally dead. The court granted the petition in December of 2021, but the investigation into his disappearance remains open. Tyler Davis, at the time of his disappearance, was described as having brown eyes and brown hair, standing 5 foot 9 inches tall and weighing around 195 pounds. He has a large red birthmark on his neck and was last seen wearing blue jeans, a white t-shirt, a blue-green flannel shirt, and sneakers. The mystery of what happened to Tyler Davis on that fateful night remains unsolved. If you have any information about Tyler, please contact the Columbus Police Department. Nestled in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, the Great Smoky Mountain National Park is a treasure trove of natural beauty and mystery. It's the most visited national park in the United States, and within its vast expanse lies the Cades Cove. This picturesque destination, favored by those with a taste for the intriguing, is a popular hike for both locals and tourists who appreciate the allure of the unknown. The cove is a labyrinth of lush foliage with an 11-mile loop road that snakes through the landscape. It's a journey that offers more than just scenic beauty. It's a chance to glimpse the park's diverse wildlife, a thrilling prospect for those who relish the thrill of the unexpected. The area is also dotted with historic structures, each with its own tale to tell, and the seasonal scenery provides a stunning backdrop, particularly in the spring and in the fall. For those who wish to delve deeper into the mysteries of the park, the Cades Cove Campground offers the perfect base. With numerous hiking and biking trails, it's an opportunity to immerse yourself in the park's unparalleled beauty. Cades Cove is a magnet for those intrigued by wildlife. Whether you prefer to drive through or camp, the cove offers ample opportunities to observe a variety of creatures, from commonly sighted deer and black bears to the more elusive coyotes, groundhogs, turkeys, and raccoons. For many, including the Martin family from Knoxville, Tennessee, Cades Cove holds a special place in their hearts. For generations, they've made an annual trip to the Smokies on Father's Day weekend, specifically to camp and hike in the Cades Cove. Their love for this beautiful area and unique experience it offers continues to draw them back year after year, each visit uncovering new adventures. One such adventure began on June 13, 1969, when William Martin, his two sons, Douglas and Dennis, and his father, Clyde, embarked on a Father's Day weekend adventure. This was Dennis's first such adventure with his father, and the group planned to hike the 13-mile loop trail from Russell to Spence Field in the Cades Cove. Both William and Clyde were experienced hikers, familiar with the trail's terrain and its hidden surprises. Even Douglas, at just 9 years old, had hiked the trail before and was familiar with it. At the age of 6, Dennis was no stranger to family hikes. He was able to match the group's pace as they embarked on their journey from Cades Cove. Their path led them through the serene Abrams Creek and past the junction of the Crib Trail. As they pressed on, they reached Russell Field, a place that could soak in the awe-inspiring scenery and relish in the wilderness. On the evening of June 13th, upon their arrival at Russell Field, the Martin family rendezvoused with Dr. Carter Martin, a family friend from Huntsville, Alabama, and his two sons. Despite the shared surname, there was no blood relation between the two Martin families. The following morning, June 14th, the group embarked on a 90-minute hike along the Appalachian Trail toward Spence Field, a location famed for its breathtaking view of the mountain laurel in full blossom during June. Upon reaching Spence Field, they were welcomed by other family members who had also made the trek. After a leisurely late lunch, the Martin children and Dr. Martin's children began to play. During this time, Dennis's father, William, overheard the boys conspiring. They were plotting a playful scheme to run on the edge of the field and sneak around, and then surprise the adults. To ensure the success of their plan, they instructed Dennis, who was wearing a bright red t-shirt, to walk alone so as to not give away their surprise. William watched the boys, amused by their laughter and camaraderie as they planned the surprise attack. Post-lunch, Douglas Martin teamed up with Dr. Martin's son and set off in one direction, while Dennis, still in his bright red t-shirt, ventured off alone in another direction. William, Dennis's father, watched his son walk away for a few minutes before turning his attention back to the rest of the group. When the children sprang their surprise on the adults a few minutes later, it took a moment for anyone to notice that Dennis was not among them. William had assumed that Dennis would eventually join the others and was not immediately concerned. However, it took less than 5 minutes for a sense of unease to creep in as William realized that Dennis was not with the group. Family dispersed, their voices echoing through the wilderness as they called out for Dennis, but their calls were met with silence. A sense of panic began to grip William as he and the others combed the area. Despite their frantic search, they found no trace of the young boy. William Martin was particularly distressed, as Dennis was a reserve child who always responded when his name was called. In a desperate bid to find his son, William decided to head in one direction while his father, Clyde, went in the opposite direction. William traced a nearby Appalachian trail, heading west and calling out for Dennis as he went. He traversed a mile before turning back towards Russell Field, then retraced his steps all the way back to Spence Field, thinking that Dennis might have gotten disoriented and followed the path they had taken earlier in the day. Despite his exhaustive efforts, there was still no sign of Dennis. A defeated and exhausted William returned to Spence Field alone. This was 1969, a time before cell phones or quick means to call for help. Clyde, Dennis's grandfather, realized they needed assistance and decided to hike to the nearest ranger station at Cades Cove, a daunting 9 miles away. It took Clyde several hours to reach the ranger station, and by the time he arrived, it was already 8:30 p.m. He reported Dennis missing, and the rangers immediately initiated a search and rescue operation. As the search for Dennis commenced, a storm rolled in, adding another layer of complexity to the already challenging task of finding the young boy. The area where Dennis was last seen was known for its intricate terrain and potentially dangerous wildlife. The heavy rain further escalated the daunting situation. Despite the challenges, a few rangers immediately began searching the immense area around Spence Field, where Dennis had last been seen. They informed dispatch that they planned to search through the night in hopes of finding the missing boy. In 1969, there was no established large-scale search and rescue operation plans in place for the Smoky Mountain National Park. Chief Ranger Sneeden organized a search crew and set up a headquarters camp at Spence Field, where they strategized their efforts to locate Dennis. The search for Dennis Martin commenced on the morning of June 15th, with the crew hopeful of making headway in their mission of finding the missing boy. Initially, the search party was composed of 30 men, including 5 leaders and 10 additional crews of 2 to 4 men each. However, as the search progressed, more volunteers flocked to the site to lend their support. By 1 p.m. on June 15th, the search party had swelled to 240 people. But there was a glaring lack of leadership and coordination among them. As the days passed, the search for Dennis attracted an increasing number of participants, including Boy Scouts and rescue squads from North Carolina. They brought in jeeps, trucks, and helicopters to aid in the search effort. Eventually, the search party will comprise more than 1,400 people. The sheer number of search teams and volunteers may have inadvertently impeded the search. There was no established search and rescue operation plan for the park at this time, and the search lacked a clear chain of command. Consequently, searchers were more likely obliterating evidence or any clues that could lead them to Dennis Martin. Despite the number of people involved in the search, Dennis remained missing. As the search for Dennis Martin continued, a myriad of ideas and theories were proposed about his possible fate. Some of these came from psychics and fortune tellers who reached out to the authorities offering assistance. One psychic from Los Angeles claimed to have seen the boy 2.5 miles to the left of where he had last been seen by his father or brother. According to this psychic, Dennis had fallen off a steep area and was now ensnared in the bushes, but still alive. Another psychic from New Orleans suggested that the search should shift from the ground to the trees and the tree tops to find Dennis. These were just a couple examples of the dozens of calls that the search team received from psychics who claimed they had information that could lead to Dennis. Despite the search leaders following up on every call, they all turned out to be dead ends. After a week of unsuccessful searching, the FBI was called in to investigate whether there was any indication of foul play or a potential kidnapping. The FBI only gets involved in a missing person case if there is a suspicion of a crime. FBI agent Jim Wright was assigned to delve into the background of the Martin family to see if anyone could have had a motive to harm or abduct young Dennis. After an exhaustive investigation, the FBI found no evidence of any adversaries or suspicious individuals linked to the Martins. The absence of any concrete leads led the FBI and the Martins to redirect their search efforts back to the Smoky Mountains. The Martin family cooperated fully with the authorities, trying to recall every detail from their arrival at the Great Smoky Mountain National Park until the last moment when William saw Dennis walking away from the group. They recounted everything that had transpired during the initial search for Dennis in the hours before Clyde Martin reached the ranger station. Dennis went missing around 4 p.m., and it took Clyde until 8:30 p.m. to reach the station, leaving a 4.5-hour window. The family searched the immediate area and enlisted the help of anyone around Spence Field who offered to assist. The FBI interviewed friends, family, and acquaintances, but found no enemies or suspicious individuals connected to the family. Thus, they returned to the Smokies to continue the search for Dennis. The Martins raised some red flags and alerted authorities to investigate potential leads. One such lead was an unnamed man from Dandridge, Tennessee, who had been camping at Spence Field around the time of Dennis's disappearance. William Martin, Dennis's father, reported to park rangers that this man, referred to as Mr. Cooper, seemed to stay close to William during most of the search efforts. Adding to the mystery was an unknown woman claiming to have extrasensory perception. She contacted the police department and requested to speak with Dennis's mother. After speaking with the woman, Miss Martin was advised to be cautious of Mr. Cooper from Dandridge. Concerned that the woman and Mr. Cooper might be collaborating to abduct Dennis, Miss Martin shared this possibility with the police. Despite the potential lead, there is no public record indicating that the authorities found the situation suspicious enough to launch a further investigation. Nevertheless, the Martins noted these strange occurrences and felt they warranted attention. As the search for their missing son Dennis continued, the Martins grew increasingly desperate for any explanation that could help offer hope for his safe return. They considered every possible scenario that could have led to Dennis's disappearance, including the idea that someone may have confused their family with another. However, there is no publicly available evidence to suggest that this theory held any weight. Contained within the publicly available files related to the investigation into Dennis's disappearance are several intriguing leads and witness statements. Among these is the account of a man named Harold Key from Carthage, Tennessee. Harold and his family were in the park on the day Dennis went missing. They were in the Sea Branch area, located roughly 7 miles from Spence Field, near Rowan's Creek. According to Key, he heard a disturbing scream that afternoon, which prompted him and his wife to scan their surroundings, fearing that one of their children might be under attack by a bear. Shortly thereafter, Key spotted a suspicious-looking man moving swiftly through the nearby woods. He recalled that the man appeared to be intentionally avoiding them, and described the man as rough in appearance. Several days after Harold Key and his family were in the park, they returned home and learned of Dennis Martin's disappearance through news reports. He immediately reported his account of the sickening scream and rough-looking man to park officials. However, after investigating the matter, park officials determined that Rowan's Creek was too far from Spence Field for the incidents to be related. The search for Dennis persisted for 7 grueling days, and on June 20th, Dennis's 7th birthday, park ranger records show plans were being made for the grim possibility of not finding him alive. With over 1,400 volunteers participating in the search, concerns arose that uncoordinated efforts could be causing more harm than good. As a result, park officials requested volunteers cease joining the search, which had then covered over 56 square miles. As the search for Dennis Martin continued, the costs mounted. Despite the massive efforts from volunteers and law enforcement, the hope of finding Dennis alive began to wane. On Wednesday, June 25th, park officials announced that the search for Dennis Martin would soon be concluding. For the Martin family, the news was crushing. After nearly 2 weeks of camping out and searching tirelessly for their son, they had to pack up and return to Knoxville with heavy hearts. The uncertainty surrounding Dennis's disappearance and the lack of answers only compounded their anguish. As the search for Dennis Martin dragged on without any solid leads, the National Park Rangers made the difficult decision to suspend all major search operations on Sunday, June 29th. Despite their best efforts, they had come up empty-handed, and the FBI had found no evidence to support theories of Dennis being kidnapped. In the weeks that followed, the Martin family clung to hope for any information that could lead to their son's safe return. They offered a reward of $5,000, equivalent to about $40,000 today, for anyone who could provide credible information about Dennis's whereabouts. However, as time passed and the search efforts yielded nothing new, park officials had to make the tough call to officially close the search for Dennis Martin on September 11, 1969. The Martin family was left with no answers and the haunting memory of their son's disappearance in the Great Smoky Mountains. The disappearance of Dennis Martin has remained a mystery for over half a century, with no definitive answers as to what happened to the young boy. Various theories have been proposed, including the possibility that he became lost in the rugged terrain and perished due to the elements or an attack by wildlife. Over the years, several tips and leads have emerged. One notable tip came in 1985, when a group of illegal ginseng hunters stumbled upon what appeared to be the remains of a small boy in an area about 3 miles from Spence Field. The hunters found a skull and other remains, but fearing arrest, almost 2 decades passed before one of the men called in the tip. With a search team finally looking for the remains, they came up empty-handed, as too much time had passed. According to a report by park officials, the search for Dennis was a marked failure. Despite the presence of many people on the scene, any possible evidence that could have been preserved was likely trampled upon by the numerous individuals who came to offer their assistance. The failure to properly coordinate and organize the search for Dennis Martin prompted the National Park Service to completely overhaul their search and rescue operations across all national parks. As a result of these changes, agencies all over the United States and the world have also adopted these new protocols, which ultimately have resulted in saving lives. Despite the positive outcomes of these changes, it is heart-wrenching to know that they came too late to rescue Dennis Martin. His disappearance remains an unsolved mystery, and his tragic case has served as a catalyst for reforming search and rescue procedures across the country and across the world. If you've enjoyed this content from a universe of mystery, please like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Christine Walter's life was a journey of passion and ambition, especially in her field of study, botany. A student at the University of Wisconsin, Christine was deeply committed to understanding and preserving the world's ecosystems. She had grand plans, including a trip to Costa Rica to study under her yoga mentor, a dream her parents, Anita and Dean Walters, were more than willing to support. The bond she shared with her parents was profound, particularly with her mother, Anita. They often sensed each other's feelings, a connection that seemed almost telepathic. As she prepared for her final year at the university, Christine's excitement was evident. She and her parents had arranged her apartment in Deerfield, near the university, and she was looking forward to what the year would bring. However, she decided to embark on a 3-week summer adventure to Portland, Oregon, to visit a friend before her studies resumed. This trip, unbeknownst to her and her family, would mark a significant turning point in her life. During the initial days of her Oregon trip, Christine kept in regular contact with her parents. But as the days turned into weeks, her parents sensed a shift in her demeanor. The West Coast lifestyle seemed to resonate deeply with her, leading her towards a more liberated and spontaneous way of living. This transformation was so profound that Christine chose to defer her final year of university, opting to extend her stay on the West Coast. Her involvement with a group known as the Green Life Evolutions marked a notable change in Christine's life path. Though information about this group is scarce, they were known for their spiritualist and environmental focus. However, their influence on Christine seemed to extend beyond that of a typical environmental group, suggesting a deeper, possibly more controlling, impact on their followers. In September of 2008, Christine relocated to Arcata, a small city in Northern California known for its stunning natural surroundings and vibrant community. Despite its beauty, Humboldt County, where Arcata is located, had a troubling reputation for unsolved disappearances and illegal activities. Christine's communications with her parents became less frequent, and she began to ask them for money more often, causing them to worry. On October 29, 2008, a concerning phone call from Christine left her mother, Anita, deeply worried. Christine spoke vaguely about needing to complete her journey, refusing her mother's plea to return home. Weeks later, in the early hours of November 12th, Christine appeared on a doorstep in Eureka, 20 miles from Arcata, in a disheveled state, barefoot, with her feet scratched. She claimed she was being pursued and had run through the forest to escape. The homeowners called the police, and Christine was taken to a hospital. At the hospital, Christine displayed signs of paranoia and fear, refusing to be touched. She claimed that demons were after her and feared they could hear her if she spoke about what happened. Despite testing negative for illegal substances, her behavior concerned the hospital staff. Yet, They could not detain her against her will. After her release, Christine stayed at the Red Lion Inn in Eureka. Her calls to her mother during this time were filled with terror. She insisted that someone was after her and that they could find her anywhere. Despite Anita's offer to come to California, Christine urged her not to, insisting that she could manage on her own. On November 14th, Christine left the hotel, visited a copy store in her hospital pajamas, and asked for directions to the DMV, which was only a mile away. This was the last confirmed sighting of Christine Walters. A private investigator later uncovered that 5 days before appearing in Eureka, Christine had participated in a tea ceremony with the Green Life Evolutions. The ceremony involved a tea known for causing hallucinations and paranoia. Christine stayed with the group until November 11th, leaving her belongings, including her backpack and ID, at their center. Since departing from the copy shop, no trace of Christine has been found. Her disappearance remains a deeply troubling mystery, with numerous tips leading nowhere. Christine, if still alive, would be 37 years old. She was around 5'3" tall and weighed about 115 pounds at the time of her disappearance. She has distinct tattoos, a green and purple iris on the back of her neck, and a small butterfly on her left hip. Christine's case continues to perplex and sadden those who knew her and those who have followed her story. The Humboldt County Sheriff's Office is the point of contact for any information regarding Christine Walters' disappearance, as her family and friends hold on to hope for answers. On a fateful summer day in 2001, Jason Jolkowski's life took an unexpected and mysterious turn. The 19-year-old, known for his quiet and respectful demeanor, began the day like any other in Omaha, Nebraska. His parents, Kelly and James, left for work, entrusting Jason and his 13-year-old brother Michael with the house. The ordinary nature of the day changed when Jason received a call from his manager at Fazoli's, an Italian fast food restaurant. They offered him extra hours for the lunch rush in addition to his scheduled dinner shift. Eager to save for his education, Jason agreed. With his car temporarily out of service due to recent hail damage, he initially planned to walk the 4 miles to work. However, Teresa, a thoughtful co-worker, offered to pick him up, concerned about the long walk before the busy workday. They agreed to meet at Benson High School, a location familiar to both and a reasonable distance for Jason to walk. At around 10:45 a.m., Jason, dressed for work and carrying his red Fazoli's shirt, stepped out of his house, pulling the trash cans in from the curb. His younger brother Michael witnessed this routine act, not realizing it would be the last time he ever saw Jason. The time for their meeting came and passed, but Jason never arrived. Teresa, worried by this uncharacteristic tardiness, called his home at 11:30 a.m. Learning that Jason had left almost 45 minutes earlier, the alarming reality began to set in. Jason had vanished in broad daylight. The community's response to Jason's disappearance highlighted his positive and helpful nature. Known as a responsible teenager, he didn't indulge in substance abuse and was deeply involved in his local parish, Holy Name Catholic Church. Jason's commitment extended to volunteering regularly, embodying a sense of community spirit and dedication. Despite facing learning challenges, Jason was an honor roll student with an impressive memory, particularly for sports statistics. His ambition to become a disc jockey led him to Iowa Western Community College's radio station, where he became known as JJ the DJ. After a hiatus due to financial constraints, Jason was determined to return to college, saving money from his job at Fazoli's and a promising new position at Satel Corporation. The initial police response categorized Jason's disappearance as a potential case of a runaway, a notion his family and friends disputed. They knew Jason's character and routines too well to believe he would have left without his belongings, especially without his car, which was essential to him. His family described him as a young man who valued family bonds deeply, the type who would pause a phone call to tuck his little brother into bed. As the first few days without Jason turned into weeks, his family's distress grew. His mother, Kelly, spoke of feeling numb, clinging to the phone in hopes of his return. The local community, including the Holy Name congregation, rallied, putting up yellow ribbons and forming prayer chains, but Jason remained missing. The Omaha police eventually expanded their investigation, canvassing the neighborhood and conducting extensive searches, including mounted units and helicopters. Yet, no evidence or clues to Jason's whereabouts emerged. On what would have been his 20th birthday, his family's hope for a celebratory reunion was met with only silence. The lack of progress in the case led Jason's family to become advocates for missing persons. They founded Project Jason, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting other families in similar situations. Their efforts led to the creation of a comprehensive missing persons database in Nebraska, a significant step forward in addressing these cases. Years passed without Jason, but his family's resolve never wavered. They continued to remember him through events, vigils, and initiatives like Miles for the Missing, raising awareness for missing persons. Kelly Jolkowski, through her tireless advocacy, earned recognition and awards for her contributions to the cause. Today, Jason's case remains open, reclassified as a homicide by law enforcement. Yet it still presents more questions than answers. His family maintains hope, believing that someone holds the key to unlocking the mystery of Jason's disappearance. At the time he went missing, Jason was described as being 6 foot 1 inch tall and weighing around 165 pounds. He was last seen wearing black pants, black shoes, a blue Chicago Cubs hat, and a white t-shirt. His disappearance continues to be a source of heartache and mystery for his family and friends, also the Omaha community. Anyone with information about Jason Jolkowski is encouraged to contact the Omaha authorities. Throughout NBA history, a prevailing misconception has persisted, suggesting that the majority of NBA players have had an easy journey. However, this notion is far from accurate. Despite the tantalizing potential for fame and fortune, the life of a professional NBA player is arduous, marked by significant sacrifices and relentless hard work, often yielding limited rewards. While it is true that some players have achieved the pinnacle of success, it is more typical for athletes to encounter hardships and descend into personal struggles. Seldom do we hear about professional athletes whose challenges lead them to make the ultimate sacrifice. One such athlete was Brian Williams, who had once been a standout NBA player. Unfortunately, his story took a tragic turn. The date was June 13th, 1997, and the Chicago Bulls had just clinched their 5th NBA championship in 7 years. Their victory is an epic series against the Utah Jazz, complete with 2 last-second game-winning shots and a remarkable performance by Michael Jordan despite battling the flu in Game 5. The team gathered amidst a throng of 24,000 jubilant fans. Michael Jordan, with a look of satisfaction on his face, stood at the center of the festivities. To his left was Scottie Pippen, and to his right stood Brian Williams, the Bulls' 6 foot 10 inch forward. This championship marked a pinnacle in Williams' career, but one wouldn't discern it from his demeanor. Despite the significance of the moment, the 28-year-old appeared distant and seemed almost lethargic. However, a closer examination revealed that behind his pale green eyes lay a harrowing narrative involving love, deception, and tragically, loss. Brian Carson Williams entered the world in Fresno, California on April 6, 1969, as the second and youngest son of Patricia Phillips and Eugene Williams. Brian seemed destined for success, given their father's history as a former soul singer for the Platters, a renowned American vocal group formed in 1952. In 1970, the R&B group discovered Eugene at a nightclub, leading to the family embarking on a journey that would take them around the world with the Platters. However, from the early days of his childhood, it was evident that the family's close-knit bond was headed for a tumultuous demise. This prophecy materialized in 1970 when his parents, his father and mother, underwent a divorce, leaving the children without a paternal figure in their lives. Although their mother eventually remarried, by the time Brian reached the 7th grade, her second marriage was already crumbling. During his formative years, Brian attended Santa Monica Catholic High School in Santa Monica, California, where he excelled as a track runner and an exceptional athlete. However, there was little indication that this 15-year-old would evolve into a prominent basketball star. In fact, he didn't even attempt organized basketball until the 10th grade, when an unexpected growth spurt compelled him to explore a career in the sport. Unlike most aspiring NBA players, Brian harbored no initial passion for basketball. Despite his initial indifference, the left-handed forward displayed remarkable grace on the court. He moved like a point guard, effortlessly executing baseline jump hooks and exhibiting a smooth touch. He glided across the court, displaying his exceptional skills as an outlet passer and a trailer on fast breaks. At times, he showcased his athletic prowess, becoming an invaluable asset to his team. His abilities made him an ideal candidate for success, and he only continued to improve with each game.
Points, and this team seems like you guys are coming on real strong now towards the end of the season, aren't you?
Yes, we are. At the beginning of the year, we weren't doing so. We weren't playing together. Now we're really playing as a team. We're looking good.
After completing his time at Santa Monica, Brian embarked on his freshman year at the University of Maryland, standing a towering 6'9" tall. Here, he joined the Maryland Terrapins, earning the title of Rookie of the Year for his outstanding performance. Before long, he transferred to the University of Arizona, where he truly began to shine. In his first season in Tucson, he averaged 10.6 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 0.4 assists, followed by a second season, where he recorded 14 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 0.6 assists per game. These achievements highlighted Brian's undeniable talent on the basketball court. As he continued to excel, Brian Williams, at the age of 21, entered the 1991 NBA Draft, ultimately being selected as the 10th overall pick in the first round by the Orlando Magic.
10th pick in the 1991 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic selects Brian Williams from the University of Arizona.
Brian Williams, 6'9½", 240 pounds, played his high school basketball at Santa Monica, California. He's 22 years old, and his father, as you pointed out to me today, is also famous for Maryland players.
Right, well, you know, he started out at Maryland, and he was successful early. What you must see from him is consistency. He has a very soft shot, a low power game, plays with a great deal of emotion.
After years of unwavering dedication and hard work, Brian Williams finally achieved his dream of making it to the NBA. However, unlike most players, his entry into the NBA wasn't the pinnacle of his life. It turned out to be a significant low point. Brian's sentiments were less than positive as he expressed, "I'm going to the bench. Never really a good feeling. I just go down there and work out with the team, the staff, and the management. The owners are good people, and the team I'm playing with seems focused and determined. They appear to be on an upward trajectory, and I'm glad to be a part of it." While Brian initially excelled with the Orlando Magic, his lack of passion for the game and personal troubles began to overshadow his on-court success. During the 92-93 season, he played only 21 games, and he was diagnosed with clinical depression, making him one of the first publicly recognized instances of mental health issues in the NBA. His struggle with depression had a noticeable impact on his performance. Initially, his behavior became unpredictable during practices, including passing out while guarding teammates and being involved in a car accident. He also admitted to a suicide attempt where he ingested 15 sleeping pills. His mother even suggested that there may have been a second attempt. Brian Williams attributed all of his mental health issues to his unhappiness in Orlando. Following his diagnosis and struggles, Brian was placed on the injured reserve list. However, in the 1993 season, he made a pivotal decision to leave the Orlando Magic and join the Denver Nuggets, where he played alongside NBA legend Dikembe Mutombo. During this stint, he played a career-high 80 games and averaged 8 points per game. In 1995, Brian moved to the LA Clippers, where he played 65 games and averaged an impressive 15.8 points per game. Contract disputes initially led him to considering sitting out the remainder of the season. However, the Chicago Bulls, led by head coach Phil Jackson, reached out to him. Entering the 1997 season, the Bulls were the reigning NBA champions, with the return of Michael Jordan from his brief retirement. The team, having previously won 72 games in a season, signed Brian as a free agent just 9 games before the regular season's conclusion. Michael Jordan, upon his arrival, motivated and pushed Brian Williams to get in shape, maximize his talent, and develop a genuine passion for the game. Brian ultimately embraced the challenge and seamlessly integrated into the new roster. His significant playing time off the bench during the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Atlanta Hawks proved to be a pivotal move, as he delivered an outstanding performance throughout the series. This included scoring 14 points in Game 3 and achieving a double-double with 12 points and 10 rebounds in the series-clinching Game 5. On June 13, 1997, in a highly anticipated NBA Finals matchup against the rival Utah Jazz, Brian continued to play a crucial role in the Bulls' pursuit of their 5th NBA title in 7 years. His contributions were instrumental in the franchise's successful championship run. Throughout his tenure with the Chicago Bulls, Brian displayed remarkable talent and untapped potential. To this day, many of the NBA star's family and friends assert that this period marked the only time in his life when he was experiencing genuine happiness.
Would you like to be a member of the Chicago Bulls for only a month? And earn yourself a position to play in the championships and win a world championship ring? Well, I'll tell you what, that's exactly what Brian Williams did.
This means the world to me. I can't thank you all enough for embracing me, the coaches, the players, the whole organization. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Despite his undeniable talent, Brian's time with the Bulls was relatively short-lived. He struggled with certain deficiencies on the court, and his erratic behavior became increasingly perplexing. This was exemplified when he attempted to open the emergency exit hatch of the team's charter jet while cruising at 30,000 feet, an act that could have resulted in a catastrophe. Consequently, he was seen as a liability, both on and off the court. Brian Williams would eventually find a new home when he signed an astonishing 7-year, $50 million contract with the Detroit Pistons. This raised eyebrows considering his inconsistent performance. Nevertheless, as the starting center for the 1998 Detroit Pistons, Brian, now known as Bison Dele in honor of his Cherokee and African ancestry, averaged 16.2 points and 8.9 rebounds per game. Subsequently, after participating in just 49 games during the 1998 NBA lockout season, Bison Dele, despite being in the prime of his career and still having a substantial amount of money remaining on his contract, made a bewildering announcement: his sudden retirement. He had been the Pistons' highest paid player, with over $36 million left on his 5-year contract. Walking away from such a substantial sum of money was unfathomable. Criticism poured in from friends and family, but Bison Dele, despite 2 relatively productive years with the franchise, retired from the game. Money could not provide the stability and fulfillment that he sought. Despite his on-court accomplishments, it became evident that basketball did not bring him the happiness that he yearned for. In the end, Bison Dele's retirement marked a departure from the conventional path of professional basketball players. Unlike many whose careers are cut short due to injuries or lack of skills, he retired to pursue a different kind of spotlight, one far removed from the NBA arenas. It was apparent to many that basketball was not his true passion, but rather the luxuries that it afforded him. Following his retirement, Bison Dele began to chase his genuine desires. He spent months in Beirut, traveled through Europe, ventured through Indonesia and India, and even took up DJing at nightclubs. He met with the Dalai Lama, enjoyed jet skiing in the Mediterranean, ran with the bulls in Spain, rode camels in Cairo, admired Havana's beautiful sunsets, and explored the bazaars of Istanbul. He also pursued his love for music, mastering several instruments like the saxophone, violin, and trumpet, and also earned a pilot's license. This was the life that he had envisioned, a departure from the glitz and pressures of the NBA. Fueled by curiosity, and now financially equipped to do so, Bison Dele was on the path to realizing all of his dreams. Regrettably, the chances of his dreams ever coming to true fruition would soon meet a tragic end. In February of 2000, Bison Dele fulfilled a lifelong dream by learning how to sail. He eventually purchased a 55-foot catamaran boat for $650,000 and named it Hakuna Matata, albeit with a slight misspelling of the Swahili phrase for no worries. Bison then set sail in the South Pacific, exploring destinations like the Solomon Islands, Fiji, Australia, and various points in between. Toward the end of 2001, Bison extended an invitation to his girlfriend, Serena Carlin, to join him on one of his adventures. They had initially crossed paths in 1997, and despite the strong affection they had for each other, Bison's NBA career had made maintaining a relationship challenging. To make up for lost time, Bison decided to embark on the adventure of a lifetime with Serena. Just 5 months later, the Hakuna Matata was poised to set sail from Tahiti with plans to spend time in Hawaii. Unfortunately, their idyllic journey would soon turn into an unthinkable and tragic disaster. While Bison Dele was finding himself and pursuing his dreams, he carried a shadow that had been with him his entire life. A shadow that had consistently asked him for money ever since his NBA success. This shadow was Kevin Williams. In stark contrast to Bison, Kevin was socially awkward, unsympathetic, and with severe asthma, which led him towards books and chess instead of sports, music, and wealth. While Bison had achieved success, Kevin had struggled, moving from one job in town to another, frequently relying on his younger brother's financial support. To the public, Kevin remained known as Bison's brother. Despite Dele's apparent joy after leaving the NBA, Kevin remained deeply attached to his hip. Although the two brothers had distinct personalities and differences, their physical resemblance was striking. Standing 6 foot 8 inches and weighing 260 pounds, with a broad jaw and short hair, Kevin appeared as a thicker, less attractive version of Bison. Like his brother, Kevin also changed his name to Miles DeBoard. He battled depression, made multiple suicide attempts, grappled with alcoholism, and took significant amounts of steroids, resulting in frequent hospital visits, with Bison often covering his medical bills. Despite their similarities, people invariably gravitated towards Bison, leaving Miles feeling underappreciated and overshadowed by his brother's success. To make matters more complicated, the siblings had never fostered a genuine relationship. Since childhood, they had often been at odds, engaging in continuous arguments and physical fights. The sibling rivalry seemed inescapable and enduring throughout the years. So, when Miles learned about Bison's upcoming trip, he decided to invite himself along in a desperate attempt to mend their strained relationship. This endeavor, however, would ultimately end in failure. On July 6, 2002, Miles unexpectedly showed up at the dock. At the time, he was unemployed, homeless, and had not had any contact with Bison for over 4 years. Bison Dele was understandably skeptical of his intentions, as Miles had had a reputation for only appearing when he needed money. The question arose, did he seek more financial support, or was there another motive behind his sudden appearance? On July 6, 2002, Bison Dele, Serena Carlin, Miles DeBoard, and Bertrand Saldana, the boat's captain, embarked on their voyage to Tahiti, unaware of the tragedy that would await them. Initially intended to last 2 weeks, the trip took an ominous turn. Over the next 2 days, 3 satellite phone calls were made from the boat. On July 8th, the satellite phones on the boat were abruptly turned off, and all communication was ceased. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, friends and family grew increasingly concerned about the lack of contact from the couple. On July 20th, the Hakuna Matata finally returned to port in Tahiti, but with a startling twist. Only one person was on board, and that person was Miles DeBoard. The other 3 passengers, including Bison Dele and Serena Carlin, were missing. This marked the beginning of a tragic and perplexing mystery. Investigators immediately suspected foul play, and for several months, Miles was under suspicion. According to him, Bison Dele appeared to be alive, but the whereabouts of the other 2 passengers remain unknown. Nothing seemed to add up, and as investigations continued, the case grew more confounding. Then, on September 5, 2002, a significant development occurred in Phoenix, Arizona. A man claiming to be Bison Dele was found in possession of his passport and checkbook. He attempted to purchase $152,000 worth of gold, a highly unusual activity considering that Bison had not written a check in over 5 years. Furthermore, Bison was supposed to be on his trip in Tahiti at the time, casting doubt on the situation. Fearing something was amiss, Bison's executive assistant contacted the Phoenix Police Department. This event raised serious questions and intensified the mystery surrounding Bison Dele's disappearance. He was last seen in Tahiti on a 55-foot catamaran. At the age of 33, the former NBA star had vanished, with an ongoing manhunt spanning from the United States to Tahiti. Intriguingly, it was discovered that Miles had been impersonating his brother. The phone number associated with the gold purchase led back to Miles. Police organized a sting operation, resulting in his arrest. After a grueling 5-hour interrogation, he confessed to forging his brother's signature on the bank documents and using Bison's passport, but he was released due to lack of concrete evidence. 2 days later, reports from Tahiti indicated that the boat had been found. Authorities located the Hakuna Matata, which had been registered under a different name, off of the coast of Sahibi. The nameplate had been removed, and there were signs of possible bullet holes. Suspicions grew that Miles might have been responsible for the deaths of the other passengers, and these concerns were substantiated when it was revealed that Miles had left a voicemail for his mother, claiming he would never harm Bison and that he could not endure prison. In response, Miles fled to Mexico, a state that did not have the death penalty. During his time in Mexico, Miles' girlfriend shared information about what had truly transpired. According to Miles, he and Bison got into a heated altercation, resulting in a physical fight. In the struggle, Serena was accidentally struck in the face and killed instantly. The boat's captain wanted to report the death to authorities, but Bison, fearing the consequences, killed the captain by striking him in the head with a wrench in self-defense. Miles claimed that he then entered the cabin, retrieving a gun, and shot Bison out of fear of his own life. In a panic, and without considering the consequences of his actions, he confessed to disposing of all 3 bodies by dumping them overboard using bodybuilding weights. While this was Miles' version of events, authorities found discrepancies in his account. Forensically, his explanation did not align with the evidence. For example, if Bison had indeed struck Serena in the head, causing her skull to hit the side of the boat, there should have been evidence of blood. Additionally, if Bison had used a wrench to strike the boat's captain, the wrench could have been presented as evidence. However, investigators found no blood on the boat, and the boat's dock and flooring remained unchanged, dispelling any notion of an effort to hide evidence. To this day, no official resolution exists. Officially, the case remains open, but there are no new leads. The only version of events the FBI got on record was that of Miles DeBoard, but authorities were never able to locate him. That was until the morning of September 15, 2002 at 11:30 a.m. Mexican police would find a body of a large man on the beach not far from the U.S. border wearing nothing but a pair of white socks. The man would immediately be taken to a nearby hospital. He had no reflexes and his pupils were non-responsive. Injuries on his body suggested that he had not been moving for quite some time. 4 days later, fingerprints confirmed that the unidentified patient was, in fact, 35-year-old Miles DeBoard. The official diagnosis revealed severe brain damage, likely caused by an insulin overdose. By the time he was discovered, Miles had fallen into a coma and required life support. On September 26, 2002, at approximately 10 a.m., he was removed from life support, and the following day, Miles DeBoard, the sole individual with first-hand knowledge of the case, was pronounced dead. To this day, there are various theories and perspectives regarding the events on the ill-fated catamaran. Some speculate that DeBoard killed his brother to be with Serena, while others envision this as an elaborate disappearing act to start a new life. FBI investigators, considering the absence of blood evidence, believe that Miles coerced his brother and the other passengers into water at gunpoint in the deep, shark-infested waters of Tahiti, hundreds of miles from any land. Regrettably, the bodies of Bison Dele and his companions were never recovered and are presumed to have been victims of a probable murder. While many questions persist about the truth of what occurred, it is evident that jealousy and resentment may have played a huge role. For those who remember, not just the events, but the circumstances leading up to them, the saga of Bison Dele and Miles de Boer remains one of the most peculiar and mysterious tales in NBA history. Today, we delve into a captivating mystery surrounding British actor Julian Sands, an avid hiker and lover of the outdoors. It all started on a fateful Friday evening in the breathtaking Mount Baldy area, a rugged and challenging terrain, especially during winter conditions. Reported missing on January 13th, 2023 by his wife at the age of 65, Julian Sands embarked on a solo hiking adventure, heading towards the perilous Mount Baldy. The news of his disappearance sent the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Air Operation crews into action, tirelessly scouring the mountain as weather conditions permitted. His car was found at the Manker Flats trailhead area, adding to the puzzling nature of the case. For those unfamiliar with Julian Sands, he is renowned for his appearances in a variety of films, including classics like Room with a View, Arachnophobia, and Warlock. He has even portrayed diverse roles in television shows like 24, Smallville, and Banshee. As the search for Julian continued, the mountain itself has proven to be treacherous, with 14 rescue missions being undertaken by sheriff's officials, unfortunately resulting in loss of lives, including 56-year-old Crystal Gonzalez Landis, a devoted hiker and mother of 4, who tragically slid down Mount Baldy over 500 feet. Despite the risks and warnings, the allure of the outdoors still calls to adventurous souls. In the midst of this baffling disappearance, the San Gabriel Mountains have also been the focus of search efforts for the 61-year-old body of Bob Gregory of Hawthorne, California, yet another hiker who vanished without a trace. Now let's dive deeper into Julian Sands' illustrious career. Born on January 4th, 1958, Julian's acting journey began in the early 80s and persisted until the very day that he vanished. His talent shone brightly in movies like The Killing Fields, Boxing Elena, Leaving Las Vegas, and A Room with a View. More recently, he was involved in Project Seneca, a film centered around the creation of earthquakes. Julian Sands' disappearance has garnered international attention, with close friends like John Malkovich publicly expressing their concern and grief. The question lingers in everyone's mind: what could have happened to Julian Sands? Was it an unforeseen accident or something more enigmatic? As we explore the circumstances leading up to his disappearance, we must remain cautious, especially when venturing into challenging terrains like Mount Baldy, where nature can be both beautiful and unforgiving. Join us as we dive into this captivating case, analyzing every aspect of Julian Sands' life, his love for the outdoors, and what may have compelled him to take on the majestic Mount Baldy. So grab your hiking gear and let's embark on this captivating journey together. Julian Sands, a man who truly embraced the great outdoors and physical activity. For Julian, hiking was not just a hobby, it was a way to hit the reset button and find balance amid the demands of his profession. In his own words, he declared, "I'm happiest being close to the mountain summit on a glorious cold morning." But what made this particular morning different from the rest? Before delving deeper into Julian's disappearance, let's first explore the majestic Mount Baldy and the San Bernardino mountain area, gaining an understanding of the challenges both Julian and the search and rescue teams faced. Mount Baldy, though a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts, has a dark and unfortunate past, having claimed the lives of many hikers over the years. News reports have often highlighted the dangers of this mountain, and Julian is not the first to vanish without a trace. Unfortunately, others before him have met similar fates, some found deceased with injuries ranging from falls to exposure, while others have never been located or ever seen again. Situated in the San Gabriel Mountains of San Bernardino County, California, Mount Baldy is surrounded by a picturesque national forest. The area boasts a rich history dating back a century, with various tales to be told, but we will focus on the key elements of the Julian Sands case for now. The climate on Mount Baldy exhibits extremes, with temperatures plummeting to -10 degrees during cooler months and soaring close to 100 degrees in the warmer ones. Annual snowfall ranges between 50 to 60 inches, accompanied by frequent precipitation. Despite its challenges, Mount Baldy remains open year-round and attracts thousands of visitors each season. The mountain offers a range of hikes to suit diverse preferences and skills. Among the popular trails are the 10-mile Bridge to Nowhere and East Fork Trail, the 1.5-mile San Antonio Falls Trail, the 11-mile Mount Baldy Notch Trail, and the 12-mile Icehouse Canyon to the Cucamonga Peak Trail, to name just a few. These hikes vary in difficulty, from easy strolls to advanced treks, appealing to hikers of all types. While the specific trail Sands chose is not mentioned in the search and rescue details, it is likely he opted for the Mount Baldy Summit Trail. This trail, considered the easiest route to the peak at an impressive 10,069 feet in elevation, starts at the top of Notch Restaurant and follows the Devil's Backbone, spanning approximately 7 miles round trip with an elevation gain of 2,200 feet. Alternatively, some hikers opt for the service road from the ski area parking lot to the top of Notch Restaurant, a shorter 6-mile option with a more strenuous elevation gain of 3,500 feet. Reaching the summit offers a breathtaking reward, a vast, flat, and treeless panoramic view of Southern California's cities, deserts, mountains, and oceans, which aptly earns the mountain its name, Mount Baldy. Given Julian's adventurous spirit, he may have taken a more challenging route to the summit, but specific details to support this theory remain elusive. The search and rescue effort focused on the location where he was last seen, leaving us wondering what they had to say about the circumstances of his disappearance. Let's delve deeper into the surrounding geography, as it plays a crucial role in understanding the challenges Julian faced. The vast Angeles National Forest, spanning approximately 700,000 acres, engulfs the San Gabriel and the Sierra Pelona Mountains. Established in 1908, this national forest primarily lies within LA County, with a small portion extending into southwestern San Bernardino County. With this expanse, one can find several nationally designated wilderness areas, each with its unique charm. The Cucamonga Wilderness, the Magic Mountain Wilderness, Pleasant View Ridge Wilderness, the San Gabriel Wilderness, and Sheep Mountains Wilderness. With so much wilderness to explore, one can easily see how it can be easy to get lost in this vast and beautiful landscape. A significant factor in Julian's case was the weather. As mentioned earlier, the conditions in January were far from favorable. The winter season in the area can be harsh, with powerful storms battering the region one after the other, bringing severe winter weather. Unfortunately, it so happened that Julian entered the park during one of the most challenging times of the year, making the search effort even more complicated. The search effort was massive and involved the collaboration of hundreds of professional search and rescue personnel from various agencies, making it one of the largest search operations in modern times. Agencies like the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, Fontana Sheriff Station, West Valley Search and Rescue Division, the California Highway Patrol, local and state law enforcement, and park officials all came together to coordinate the first round of searches. Initially, the focus was on the Mount Baldy area, but as time went on, the search zone expanded to include surrounding trails and wilderness areas within the Angeles National Forest. Searchers attempted to narrow down their efforts by focusing on a specific area of the trail where the California Highway Patrol's RICO device indicated a possible electronic signal during the early days of the investigation. Julian's silver Volvo was found at the trailhead, covered in a thin layer of snow, suggesting that it had been sitting untouched for several days by that point. However, there were no clues inside the vehicle to indicate what might have happened to Julian, and everything appeared to be in order. Despite the dedication and the use of technology such as canines, helicopters, drones with FLIR technology, the search efforts were continuously hampered by relentless winter storms, forcing operations to halt for days at a time. On February 25th, a month after Julian's disappearance, the search effort was scaled back due to lack of leads, limited resources, and the persistent winter weather. The heartbreaking realization that the effort had to shift from a rescue to a recovery operation weighed heavily on everyone involved, including Julian's friends and family, who were holding on to hope for his safe return. Regrettably, Julian's case is not an isolated incident. Over the years, since 2020, more than 100 search operations have been conducted for missing hikers on Mount Baldy, resulting in 6 confirmed fatalities as of February 2023. This somber statistic paints an even darker picture of the treacherous winter conditions that plague the mountain at the start of each new year. As we continue our exploration, we must now consider the possibilities of what occurred in the vast wilderness of Mount Baldy during those winter days. The challenges posed by the environment and the history of previous missing hikers serves as a reminder of the perils that can befall even the most experienced adventurers in this breathtaking yet unforgivable landscape. Let us proceed with caution and empathy as we seek to uncover the truth behind Julian Sands' enigmatic disappearance amidst the stunning but unpredictable wilderness of Mount Baldy. According to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Julian was one of 3 hikers who went missing in the Mount Baldy area during the month of January. Jin Chung, a 75-year-old man from North Hollywood, was reported missing on Sunday, January 22nd, after his hike at Mount Baldy. Fortunately, he was found safe a few days later, although he did suffer from some weather-related injuries. On January 18th, another hiker, 61-year-old Robert Gregory from Hawthorne, California, went missing after failing to return home from his hike near Mount Islip, located in the Angeles National Forest. Sadly, Mr. Gregory's body was discovered exactly 1 month later, on February 18th, approximately 300 feet below the summit of Mount Islip. Even for the experienced outdoor enthusiast, Mount Baldy can prove to be treacherous and yield disastrous results if not properly prepared. The dangers that lurk on the mountain should serve as a stern reminder of the importance of adequate preparation and caution. Unfortunately, despite these dangers, the allure of the outdoors and the spirit of adventure will likely continue to draw people to explore the wilderness. One possible scenario that comes to mind about Julian Sands' disappearance, albeit an unfortunate one, is the kind we fear but anticipate given the history of accidents on Mount Baldy. It is not difficult to imagine a similar scenario playing out for Julian, as it takes just one wrong move, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Julian could have suffered a fall, leaving him trapped or incapacitated. The weather on January 13th did not offer much forgiveness, with temperatures ranging from the upper 40s during the day to freezing at night, accompanied by high winds, sleet, and snow. Hypothermia from exposure could have been a significant risk, but if that were the case, why were the searchers unable to find him? In such situations, when a person becomes injured or exposed to the elements, they often get disoriented, losing their sense of direction. Lost hikers can end up in areas that seem to defy logic, straying completely off course from their intended routes. Dehydration sets in over time, leading individuals to make poor decisions out of desperation, much like those lost at sea, who may drink seawater or attempt to reach an imaginary island caused by a mirage. In the wilderness, a similar phenomenon can occur in an emergency situation, with people wandering into oblivion, eventually being swallowed up by the unforgiving wilderness. Although animal predation is possible, there is no evidence to suggest that it played a role in Julian's disappearance. Mount Baldy is not excessively tall, and predators like mountain lions are more likely to be seen in lower elevations during colder months in search of food. Nonetheless, the rugged environment of Mount Baldy poses enough natural dangers, and Julian's case serves as a stark reminder of the importance of preparation and respect for nature's unpredictability. Another less explored scenario revolves around the potential of foul play. While it may seem far-fetched, we have all heard the disturbing stories of obsessed fans fixated on their favorite celebrities. Although Julian's disappearance might not have been linked to such a scenario, we cannot dismiss the possibility of encountering individuals with sinister intentions in remote areas. Alternatively, it could have been a simple exchange gone awry, or Julian might have unintentionally angered someone else on the trail. In the past, unfortunate accidents have occurred due to carelessness, as seen in the 2007 incident where a hiker's life was lost due to rocks tossed carelessly down a mountain, oblivious to those below. Delving into Julian's personal life, it is worth considering whether he might have been experiencing deeper personal struggles that were unknown to the public. Although he enjoyed a successful acting career, could he have felt stagnant or unfulfilled? The stresses of an ever-changing industry might have led him to seek solace in the outdoors, as he often did to balance his professional life. Nonetheless, such feelings can pass with time, but for some, they may prove overwhelming. At times, the allure of escape can be strangely appealing, but I don't imply that Julian had any desire to disappear. We can't ignore the possibility, as we've seen in other cases where individuals sought such an escape. While I personally do not believe this scenario in Julian's case, it is essential to explore every angle to uncover the truth. The events leading up to his disappearance remain a mystery, making it difficult to determine exactly what transpired on that day. However, something tells me that the answers we seek may not be too far away, and perhaps once found, we'll realize the clues were right in front of us all along. Intriguingly, overconfidence could be a factor worth considering. Oftentimes, we hear stories of experienced outdoor enthusiasts who, despite their familiarity with the area, bite off more than they can chew. Positive experiences on previous trips may not guarantee the same outcome on subsequent ones. Hence, it is essential to remain vigilant and prepared, even in familiar territories. In the case of Julian's disappearance, we cannot help but feel that this case is shrouded in uncertainty, much like the enigmatic persona of Julian himself. Apart from the myriad roles he portrayed in the illustrious career that he had, Julian was captivating in his own right. Many were drawn to his charisma, wisdom, kindness, and friendship. Yet, despite his admirable qualities, Julian remained somewhat of a mystery, concealing aspects of himself from the world. On June 24th, 2023, the news of Julian Sands' tragic end has deeply saddened the world. A body discovered in the wilderness near Mount Baldy, California, has now been officially confirmed to be that of the missing British actor. After transporting the body to the coroner's office for identification, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department released a statement stating that the body had been positively identified as Julian Sands, the 65-year-old actor. The search for Julian Sands had been a coordinated effort by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, with Mount Baldy's challenging terrain in the San Gabriel Mountains proving to be a formidable obstacle for rescuers. The inclement weather hampered the ground searches, causing delays and difficulty in finding Sands. Despite the effort of over 80 people in a renewed search on the 17th of June, they were unable to locate him. Consequently, the sheriff's office made the difficult decision to scale back the search. Julian Sands' family, in their first statement in 4 months, expressed their profound gratitude to the search teams and spoke of their enduring love for the actor, remembering him as a wonderful father, husband, explorer, and lover of the natural wonder and of the arts. John Malkovich, a close friend of Julian Sands for 4 decades since they met on the set of The Killing Fields in 1983, paid a heartfelt tribute to him. As their film Seneca, on the creation of earthquakes, premiered at the Berlin Film Festival in February, Malkovich expressed his deep affection for Sands and the tremendous loss felt by all who knew him. He described Sands as exceptionally clever and an exceptional storyteller, adding that their friendship allowed them to talk about anything with each other. Julian Sands was not only known for his talent and versatility as an actor, but also cherished for his engaging personality, sense of humor, and ability to connect with others. As the world mourns the loss of this exceptional individual, we remember him for the impact he left on the lives of those who were fortunate enough to know him. May his memory live on, and may he continue to inspire us through his contributions to the arts and the enduring connections he forged with his loved ones and friends. In 2014, the puzzling tale of Jon Anderson Edwards began to unfold, a narrative marked by curiosity and heartache. Jon, a 31-year-old Scottish man, had a life characterized by an unquenchable thirst for exploration and cultural immersion. He had wandered through Western Europe's diverse landscapes and even called Israel home for several years. His latest chapter was set in Portugal, where he had recently embarked on a new job, seemingly opening a new and exciting chapter in his life. Jon's passion for travel was evident through his active participation in Workaway, a platform that connects travelers with work opportunities worldwide. His profile portrayed him as a dedicated worker, eager for new challenges and social interactions, traits that led him to secure a position at the Rock Food Cafe in Lagos, Portugal. By the end of August, Jon seemed to be acclimating well to his new surroundings, sharing positive updates on social media about his job, the friendly nature of his colleagues, and the allure of Lagos. Life in Portugal appeared to suit Jon perfectly. His free time was filled with explorations of local culture, enjoying the vibrant nightlife and stunning beaches of Lagos. However, an undercurrent of concern surfaced in early September when Jon humorously posted about an enduring workday with a hangover. This post prompted a playful response from his mother, reflecting a light-hearted family dynamic. On September 12th, the narrative took a dark turn. Jon shared his experience of a tumultuous night, feeling utterly deflated and beaten. He opened up to his friends about an incident where he had fallen while drunk, leading to loss of consciousness. Despite his boss expressing worry and advising him to seek medical attention for his head injury, Jon downplayed the severity of the incident. Alarm bells rang louder when, in a few days, Jon failed to appear for work. His boss, deeply concerned, checked his apartment, only to find it devoid of Jon's presence. On September 15th, the unsettling news was official. Jon Anderson Edwards was reported missing, his disappearance shrouded in mystery. The ensuing investigation brought Jon's family, including his mother Leslie and sister Kenna, to Portugal in a desperate search for answers. Upon their arrival, they discovered Jon's apartment with all his belongings intact, including his passport and phone. The only items missing were the clothes he had last been seen wearing and Jon himself. The case drew criticism regarding the Portuguese police's handling of the case, leading to the involvement of Scottish authorities. Intriguingly, phone data indicated that Jon had been active at 4 p.m. on the day of his disappearance, suggesting he might have been at his apartment at that time. However, the accounts of his roommates did not shed light on his whereabouts on that day. In the wake of his vanishing, various theories and false leads emerged. A ransom hoax briefly raised fears of a kidnapping. There were speculations that Jon might have joined a hippie commune or wandered into Spain, a theory aligning with his adventurous spirit, but conflicting with the sudden, unexplained nature of his disappearance. Nearly a year later, in 2015, an unexpected lead surfaced. A photograph taken at a Chelsea football match in London showed a man in the background who remarkably resembled Jon. The discovery ignited a flurry of social media activity as Jon's family shared the image, hoping someone might recognize the man and provide vital information. However, this promising lead ultimately led to a dead end, as the man in the photograph was identified as someone else. More than 8 years since his disappearance, the mystery of Jon Anderson Edwards remains unsolved. Despite the involvement of Scottish authorities, no new information has come to light. Jon was described as 5 feet 9 inches tall, with a slim build, brown hair, blue eyes, and distinctive Arabic and Hebrew tattoos on his arms. He was also known to sometimes use the surname Bison. The story of Jon, which began in 2014, continues to intrigue and haunt those who follow it. It remains a mysterious narrative, a reminder of the unresolved puzzles that linger in our world. The perplexing disappearances of Hannah Upp have left many unanswered questions since her first vanishing in September of 2008. At 23 years old, Hannah, a new teacher in Harlem, was eagerly looking forward to starting her new career. However, on the first day of school, she was conspicuously absent. In her apartment, her belongings, including her wallet, passport, and phone, were left behind, offering no indication of her whereabouts or the reasons for her sudden disappearance. Nearly 2 weeks after she vanished, Hannah was spotted on CCTV at an Apple store in Midtown Manhattan. Despite being recognized as the missing teacher, Hannah dismissed the concerns and quickly exited the store. This sighting triggered a series of additional sightings across Manhattan, including at a Starbucks and a sports bar. Each instance, as people attempted to approach her, she seamlessly blended into the city's crowds and disappeared. 3 weeks into her disappearance, a remarkable turn of events unfolded. Hannah was found floating, face down, near the Statue of Liberty by the captain of the Staten Island ferry. She was rescued and hospitalized, miraculously surviving her ordeal in the water. Incredibly, Hannah had no memory of her activities in the preceding weeks, with her last clear memory being going out for a run. Following this bewildering incident, Hannah's life appeared to normalize. She returned to her teaching job, seemingly recovered, but with questions about her disappearance still lingering. 4 years later, in an eerie repetition of events, Hannah disappeared again. This time, she was working at a school in Maryland. Similar to her first disappearance, she failed to show up for work. Her personal items were discovered along a wooded path near the school. After days without contact, her mother received a call from an unknown number. It was Hannah. She had found herself in a creek close to the school, once again with no memory of the preceding events or how she came to be there. In 2013, seeking a change of scenery, Hannah accepted a teaching position in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. Life on the island was idyllic for Hannah until September of 2017, when Hurricane Irma struck, causing extensive damage. Despite the chaos, Hannah texted friends confirming her safety, but noting the island's transformation. Days after Irma, as another hurricane loomed, Hannah's behavior became increasingly concerning. She visited her ex-boyfriend's house, only to find he had evacuated. Hannah decided to stay on the island, despite the approaching storm. Her demeanor during this period was described as distant and robotic, causing concern among her friends and colleagues. On the day she vanished for the third time, Hannah was seen driving to work, but never arrived. It was at the same time of year as her previous disappearances. Searches focused on water sources, considering her history, but to no avail. Hannah's belongings were found at a beach bar, and her car was parked nearby, yet she was nowhere to be found. The arrival of the second hurricane further hampered search efforts. Despite extensive searches before and after the storms, including shelters, abandoned buildings, and hospitals, no traces of Hannah have ever been found. To this day, her whereabouts and the circumstances of her disappearances remain a mystery. Hannah Upp's story continues to perplex and concern those who know her, leaving many questions unanswered about her well-being and safety. The strange disappearance of Mike Hearon from the Great Smoky Mountains.
It would definitely be considered a cold case. My mind has gone 100 different ways. Anytime, of course, with all the hope we have of finding them, anytime we hear something, you start to believe it.
Michael Edwin Hearon, known as Mike, who was 51 years old, was last spotted on his four-wheel drive ATV at approximately 11 a.m. on August 23, 2008, heading towards a densely wooded area close to his 100-acre residence on Bell Branch Road in Blount County, Tennessee. The location is adjacent to the boundary of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Bell Branch is just a really small road, single lane. It borders the national park. It's sort of back in the corner, so it's really secluded and away from everything.
Following an extensive search of the vicinity near his home, no evidence was discovered except for his abandoned ATV, which had its keys in the ignition, was in high gear, and had the kill switch turned off. There were no footprints, ripped pieces of clothing, noticeable paths through the dense vegetation, bloodstains, body tissue, or skeletal remains found in the area, indicating that Mike had never been there. The authorities presume that he had either been abducted or lost in the forest, while the family suspects that criminal activity was at play. Despite the passage of time, no new evidence has surfaced, leaving the question of what occurred to Mike Hearon on that fateful day in August 2008 in the wilderness around Happy Valley, Tennessee, unanswered.
Believe it. Your mind's just going over so many different things, and you have so many different ideas and just so many questions that you just want answered.
Mike Hearon, who was roughly 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighed approximately 185 pounds, was last seen wearing a faded red t-shirt, khaki cargo shorts, and sandals when he disappeared. Had a snake bite scar on one of his feet, a surgical scar on the back of his knee, and a noticeable tattoo on his lower back, along with a few dental caps. Besides having mild high blood pressure, Mike was in good physical shape. He was a native of East Tennessee and attended Lanier High School, where he played football. Following high school, he worked as a trail trimmer for the Park Service, before starting a successful home building company, Mike Hearon Builders, which his sons Matt and Andy also worked for. The company had sold much of its housing inventory in 2007, prior to the housing market crash of 2008 and 9, and there were no apparent financial difficulties. Mike was familiar with the Happy Valley region and owned a 100-acre farm with cattle. He enjoyed exploring caves and venturing deep into the nearby Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Happy Valley is an unincorporated community in Blount County, Tennessee, with approximately 500 inhabitants. It lies within a narrow valley bearing the same name on the northwestern border of the Great Smoky Mountains. Happy Valley Road is the primary road access to the area, linking U.S. Route 129 with the Look Rocks section of the Foothills Parkway. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park spans 522,419 acres and covers the ridgeline of the Blue Ridge Mountains, including the Great Smoky Mountains. Often shortened to the Smokies, this park center is crossed by the border between Tennessee and North Carolina, running from the northeast to the southwest. It was established by the United States Congress in 1934 and officially dedicated by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1940. The park features some of the highest mountains in the eastern part of the United States. The Appalachian Trail, which runs from Georgia to Maine, passes through the park. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the most visited national park in the United States, with 12.5 million visitors in 2019. Mike's sons, Andy and Matt, were last in contact with him on Saturday, August 23rd, 2008. At around 9:30 a.m., Mike called his son Andy to inform him that he was leaving his condo in Maryville, Tennessee, and would be coming over to his house to collect a lawnmower and trailer for cutting grass on a property in Happy Valley.
He called me Saturday morning just to kind of let me know he was going to head up over the mountain for the weekend. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Although Andy was not home when his father called, he offered to help him load the mower onto the trailer. Matt, Mike's other son, received a voicemail from Mike with the same message. Mike regularly visited his farm in Happy Valley and was eager to mow the grass on a 40-acre neighboring property owned by missionaries who had been away for some time. Andy told his dad he could go ahead and transport the mower by himself if he didn't want to wait, because they only lived about a half hour apart. So he would either see his dad loading the mower and help him, or pass him on the drive. On his way home, Andy passed his dad on Gateway Road, and Mike had the mower and was likely heading towards Bell Branch Road. Later that morning, around 11 a.m., Mike's neighbor saw him pull into his driveway. His neighbor described it as he was hauling a piece of equipment on a trailer. 30 minutes later, they saw him on his four-wheeler ATV, and he waved as he drove down Bell Branch Road. Matt and Andy assumed their dad would call and return the mower and trailer to one of them when he was done, and they went on with their weekends. On Sunday, August 24th, their grandmother Alma called around 2 p.m. concerned that she hadn't heard from Mike and couldn't reach him on his cell phone, even though cell phone reception in Happy Valley was almost non-existent.
I was starting to worry when we were driving up there, just because the whole fact that we were having to drive up there, it was just odd, you know.
Earlier that morning, Alma, Mike's mother, had walked with Matt and Andy from their house on Happy Valley Road to Mike's house on Bell Branch Road.
but there was no response when they knocked on his door. They saw Mike's truck in the driveway with a mower and trailer attached, just as their grandfather had seen it earlier that weekend. They also noticed that the lawn had not been mowed. However, Matt and Andy weren't too worried, as their father often spent time away from the house taking care of the cattle or working on the farm. The next day, on August 25th, Alma called again and expressed her concern that she still hadn't heard from Mike. This alarmed Matt and Andy, and they decided to check on their father. Matt first went to Mike's condo on Brown Court in Maryville, where he stayed during the week for work. There, he found 2 of Mike's 3 vehicles in the garage, but nothing seemed out of place. After checking the condo, Matt met up with Andy, and they both went to the farm on Bell Branch Road. Alma had gone back to the farmhouse to check on Mike, but she didn't find him. When Andy and Matt arrived, they saw that Mike's ATV was still in the front yard, and his truck was parked with a lawnmower and trailer attached to the back. Upon closer inspection, they found that the windows of the truck were down, the doors were unlocked, and Mike's keys, ID, and money clip were still inside the vehicle, which was very strange. Matt and Andy came to the realization that the old ATV their grandmother had seen on Mike's property was still there, while the new one that Mike had recently purchased was missing. In addition, Mike's truck was parked in an unusual position, as it was normally moved before the school bus arrived on Monday mornings. Matt was particularly worried about the missing ATV, because it suggested that Mike may have been in an accident and unable to return to the farm. On Monday, August 25th, around noon, the men informed some of the close family members of Mike's disappearance and contacted their mother, who drove to Happy Valley to help them search. Matt and Andy began searching their father's property by repairing a flat tire on an old ATV and driving through all the ATV trails and nearby campgrounds in the national park. They were unable to find any signs of their dad. Around 3 or 4 p.m., Matt and Andy called 911, reporting their father Mike missing to the National Park Service, who transferred the report to the Blount County Sheriff's Office.
Blount County
That was first called and immediately to Blount County Sheriff's Department. And then within probably an hour or two, they had met us over at his house.
Between 6 and 7 p.m., search teams from the Sheriff's Office arrived to the farm, talked to Mike's friends in the neighborhood, and attempted to track him with a sniffer dog. However, the search was interrupted by heavy rain that persisted for several days. The search teams agreed to meet with the family before daylight the following morning to continue the search for Mike.
We were called out to his house. I remember it was raining.
That's where the old one was parked, right there. Got everybody together on Tuesday morning very early, and that's when we were doing the grid searches and all of that. And Tuesday, I think, around lunchtime is when they had found the four-wheeler.
It was just really oddly placed. Didn't really find a whole lot of evidence.
We grew up riding four-wheelers and dirt bikes. Me and my brother did, and my dad, and all of us did. And, when you turn something off, that has an ignition switch and a key, you turn the key off or it'll drain the battery, the lights and stuff.
Gary Whitehead, one of Mike's neighbors who lived on Bell Branch Road, offered to lead search parties despite being in his 80s. When Mike went missing, Grady caught a glimpse of him as he drove past his house on his ATV and waved at him. The Hearon and Whitehead families shared a close bond, having worked as a park ranger in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park for more than 3 decades. Grady was well versed with the terrain and possessed excellent tracking skills, and he couldn't believe Mike would just go missing. He was confident in his ability to locate Mike because the thick vegetation and habitat would leave a telltale sign, like flattened leaves, snapped twigs, and crushed bushes if someone had walked through an area or taken a tumble and then tried to seek help. On Tuesday, August 26th, a friend discovered his missing ATV around 12:05 p.m. near Happy Valley Loop, a road leading to Bell Branch Road and about a mile from Mike's residence. The ATV was in an uncommon location near an abandoned cabin and close to the national park, but not inside of it. It appeared to have been abandoned in a hurry or purposely ditched in the thick brush. The vehicle was undamaged and still had fuel in the tank, but it was found in high gear on a steep hill with the ignition switch on and the kill switch off, which was unusual behavior for Mike. Matt, Mike's son, noted that his father would never leave an ATV on as it would drain the battery. Upon seeing the ATV, Matt and his brother knew it was their father's, but they had no explanation as to why it was in that location. They immediately suspected foul play. The next day, over 50 community volunteers and deputies searched the area where the ATV was found. The search proved fruitless as no trace of Mike or any clues were found. The rain made it difficult to gather any forensic evidence, and the searchers could not find any footprints or a trail in the thick underbrush. Dogs were not able to pick up a scent, and there was no evidence of an animal attack, a struggle, or any foul play. The searchers found no torn bits of clothing, blood, tissue, or bones. It was as if Mike had just disappeared without a trace. Around 450 acres were searched by hundreds of volunteers and officials, with some of the area searched more than once, including aerial searches with the help of the Knox County Sheriff's Office helicopter, cadaver dogs from North Carolina, sheriff's deputies on horseback, private citizens with horses, ATVs, and grid searches in the backcountry on foot. The search also covered about 50 miles of hiking trails, and drones were used to map the area. The sheriff's office even brought in divers to search 2 ponds on Mike's property. No signs of human decay were detected by the cadaver dogs when they were brought in the following Wednesday. The official search for Mike Hearon was called off by the Blount County Sheriff's Office on Friday, August 29, 2008. In January 2009, another search was conducted, and an article of clothing was found near the location where Mike's ATV was discovered. However, it did not match Mike's. Some bones were also discovered in a fire pit not far from the ATV location, but they were determined to be from a cow. Despite the thorough search, no trace of Mike, his clothes, or his belongings has been found in the woods around where the ATV was located. Friends and family have conducted searches in the years since his disappearance, but nothing has turned up. As a result, Matt and Andy organized an annual hike called Hike for Mike, along with the trails near Mike's property in Happy Valley. Despite a $15,000 reward, no new leads have been found. According to both his sons, Mike Heron would never have willingly left his family. Andy Heron, who had been married to his wife Casey for about 3 months at the time of Mike's disappearance, said that his father was a family-oriented person who loved the outdoors and the Bell Branch property. Matt Heron also expressed his belief that his father did not simply walk away, citing his close relationship with his mother and his excitement about becoming a grandfather. Matt also ruled out the possibility of suicide, stating that his father did not suffer from depression and had no financial or personal enemies. The ATV's ignition being left on suggests that Mike may have abruptly left the trail due to encountering or hearing something in the woods, or being confronted someone or something that caused him to immediately abandon his vehicle. There are some speculations that Mike disappeared as a result of a drug deal gone wrong, or after stumbling upon an illegal marijuana farm. The disappearance of Mike Heron is a tragic and unresolved case that has left his family and the community with more questions than answers. Despite extensive searches and investigations by law enforcement, no trace of Mike has been found.
Lots and stuff.
We get leads, we get tips, and we follow up on all them. And just, we get tips up until like a couple months ago we had tips and we followed up on them.
Thought of a lot of different details, but there's no point in going there because it's just unknown.
We don't believe, there's not any scenario that I've ran to believe that he's still be alive. I believe that he's dead.
No, it's hard to believe. It's been 14 years. I'm just proud we've all made it through.
This case has led to various theories about what happened to Mike, ranging from foul play to accidental injury or encountering something dangerous in the woods. However, none of these theories have been confirmed, leaving the fate of Mike Heron a mystery. This story serves as a reminder of the importance of being safe and taking precautions when venturing into the wilderness. It's crucial to always inform someone of your planned route, bring necessary supplies and equipment, and to avoid unknown or potentially dangerous areas. Accidents can happen, and it's important to take measures to ensure your safety and the safety of others.
Phoenix Lucille Coldon, born as Phoenix Reeves on May 23, 1988, experienced a major life transition after her adoption by Lawrence Coldon. The family moved to Spanish Lake for Lawrence's work, where Phoenix grew up as an only child. She was known for her inquisitive nature, bright mind, and creative talents. She showed exceptional skills in music, particularly in playing the violin and piano. Additionally, she was a regional junior fencing champion. Raised in a deeply spiritual and religious household, Phoenix's life was disciplined, a trait reflected in her regular church attendance and participation in the choir. However, her friends observed her growing desire to be free from her sheltered upbringing and immerse herself in the experience that comes with school and college life. After being mostly homeschooled until the 6th grade, Phoenix enrolled at the University of Missouri in 2007. This marked a significant change in her life as she moved out of her family home and into an apartment. Unbeknownst to her parents, she was living with a person named Michael B., a relationship her mother would not have approved of. Phoenix's time at the university was marked by her increasingly strained relationship with her parents and a noticeable shift in her behavior. She began to miss classes, leading to her failing to register for a full semester. In early 2011, she returned to her family home, a move attributed to financial reasons. However, unbeknownst to her family, she was no longer attending the university. Her return was accompanied by a noticeable change in her demeanor. She started experimenting with drugs, argued more with her parents, and became more distant from her friends. Her best friend, Akira, noted a change in Phoenix's behavior, describing her as paranoid, irritable, and erratic. Phoenix even brandished a knife during a minor argument with Akira, a behavior that was way out of character. Phoenix's life appeared to become increasingly complicated. She was discovered to have 2 phones, suggesting a level of complexity in her personal life that was previously unknown. On December 18, 2011, Phoenix attended a church service with her mother where she played in the bell choir. After returning home and spending some time playing basketball, she left the house in her 1998 Chevy Blazer, never to return. This marked the beginning of her mysterious disappearance. Despite her parents' curfew of 1 a.m., Phoenix did not return home that night or the following morning. Her mother, sensing something was amiss, reported her missing to the police department. The response was initially dismissive, with officers suggesting that Phoenix, being 23 years old, was entitled to make her own decisions. However, her mother was adamant that this behavior was uncharacteristic of her daughter. 2 weeks later, Phoenix's car was found impounded in a tow yard, having been there since the day of her disappearance. The car's location, in a dangerous area known for crime and drugs, raised alarm bells. It was unclear whether Phoenix had driven the car herself, had it stolen and dumped, or had been abducted. In 2018, an investigation led by investigative reporter Chandra Thomas and retired police chief Joseph Dahlia shed new light on this case. They found that Phoenix had 2 birth certificates, one under her adopted name and one under her birth name. This discovery led to further inquiries, but no definitive answers were ever found. The case of Phoenix Coldon remains unsolved, her parents holding on to hope that she is still alive and will one day return home. Anyone with information about Phoenix Coldon's disappearance is urged to contact the Spanish Lake Police Department. In September of 1997, Amanda Dawn Gallion, then 14 years old, faced significant upheaval as her family moved from Kansas City, Missouri to Gillette, Wyoming. The transition was challenging for Amanda, who struggled with leaving her close friends behind. Shortly after the move, she briefly ran away but returned home the next day. This incident marked the beginning of a distressing period for the Gallion family. On October 13th, just 6 weeks after relocating to Wyoming, Amanda disappeared under mysterious circumstances. That morning, she left her home on her bicycle, heading towards school. However, she never made it to her classes. The Gallion family didn't realize Amanda was missing until later that evening, when the school notified them at 6 p.m. Her bicycle was found abandoned by the side of the road near Interstate 90. Investigators initially speculated that Amanda might have run away again. They focused their attention on Patrick Lee Gehrig, a 20-year-old man who showed interest in dating Amanda, despite her parents' disapproval. Amanda's parents were aware that she sometimes met Gehrig secretly at night. When questioned, Geering claimed that he had last seen Amanda at 7:15 a.m. on the morning that she vanished. Authorities suspected Geering might be hiding Amanda, but they lacked the evidence to support this theory. Mere days after Amanda's disappearance, on October 19th, Geering also went missing. His red pickup truck was found abandoned, facing the wrong direction on the road. Notably, the driver's seat was adjusted closer to the steering wheel than Geering would typically set it. Inside the vehicle, investigators found 2 watches and a handwritten letter, which Amanda's mother identified as her daughter's handwriting. The letter expressed Amanda's frustrations and struggles with adapting to life in a new city. Additionally, one of the watches was recognized as a gift from Amanda's late grandmother. Despite extensive efforts, progress in the case was minimal. The Gallion family received suspicious phone calls at home, and reports surfaced of Amanda being seen in Kansas City, Florida, and Montana. These sightings also involved a blue car with Wyoming license plates, but they were never confirmed, nor was the car ever tracked. Amanda's parents believe Patrick Geering played a role in their daughter's initial disappearance. However, both Amanda and Gering's social security numbers have not been used since 1997, indicating that neither has been employed, licensed, or obtained credit since then. Amanda was last seen on October 13th of 1997 in Gillette, Wyoming, en route to school. At the time, she was approximately 5 foot 2 inches tall, weighing around 100 pounds, and had blue eyes and blonde hair, which she had dyed black shortly before disappearing. If alive, Amanda would now be 38 years old. Patrick Lee Geering, missing since October 19, 1997, also from Gillette, Wyoming, is a white male with brown hair and brown eyes. He has a distinctive underdeveloped right ear and a 1-inch scar on his right temple. He was around 5 foot 5 inches tall and weighed around 160 pounds at the time of his disappearance. If alive, he would be about 44 years old today. For those with any information regarding Amanda Gallion's disappearance, please contact the Gillette Police Department. Today, we plunge into the enigmatic story of James Griffin, a tale nestled in the wilds of Washington State, a narrative that beckons to all lovers of nature, hiking, and the great outdoors. James Griffin, at the age of 60, was an inhabitant of Port Angeles, Washington. Those who knew him would describe him as a devoted individual. His heart echoed with the rhythm of the trails, and hiking was his solace. But fate threw a curveball when James, a laborer by profession, met with an injury to his foot. Yet, his spirit remained undaunted. Originally hailing from Michigan, James found a newfound love for the Washington State terrain. The magnificent Port Angeles isn't just a picturesque town, but it's also the gateway to the enchanting Olympic National Park. For those unfamiliar, let me paint a picture. The Olympic National Park is nature's masterpiece, a land where meticulously maintained trails stretch out, some even paved to perfection, leading explorers to mesmerizing destinations. Amongst the many wonders of the park, James had a particular fondness for its therapeutic hot springs. With his injured foot, these springs were more than just a natural wonder. They were his sanctuary. He would often find solace by soaking his feet, letting the warmth ease his pain. As winter cast its frosty veil on December 22, 2014, James sought the comforting embrace of the springs. Despite the chill, he intended to make a brief visit, absorb the tranquility, and then return home. While the park did offer camping spots, it required prior reservations and paperwork. But on this day, James had a simple day-long hike planned. That fateful morning, he texted a friend, hinting at his beloved destination. His friend, knowing James's love for the springs, wished him an enjoyable trip. By around 10 a.m., James, in his Subaru Outback, was en route to Olympic National Park, a place where he proudly held an annual pass. And so, with a heart full of adventure, James set forth towards the trailhead, completely unaware of the mystery that awaited him. Now, let's delve deeper and uncover the enigma of James Griffin's journey. The specific trail stands out for its meticulous upkeep. For the most part, it's impeccably paved, providing clear passage, even across challenging terrains. It's not one of those ambiguous paths where one wrong turn could leave you disoriented. This trail is undeniably prominent, ensuring even the novice hiker won't lose their way. Reports suggest that James embarked on this trail around 10 in the morning. However, as time went on, the tone of our story shifts. Christmas Eve arrived, a time of merriment and gatherings. James was expected at a festive dinner, yet, as the clock ticked, James was nowhere to be found. Concern gripped his family when Christmas morning dawned, and there was still no word from him. Arriving at James's residence, they found his dog, seemingly distressed, having been left alone for an unsettling number of days. This was completely out of character for James. Concern quickly spiraled into panic. Following discussions with James's acquaintance, including the friend he had last texted, the family deduced that his last known location was the Olympic National Park. They promptly alerted local law enforcement about his mysterious disappearance on that fateful Christmas day in 2014. Local authorities collaborated with the Park Service, bringing them up to speed about the missing James Griffin. It was presumed that he might have ventured towards the hot springs, a place he often frequented. And, in a serendipitous twist, one park ranger, recalling the description of James's vehicle, remembered spotting a similar one stationed at the trailhead parking lot leading to the hot springs. The pieces of the puzzle started to come together, but the heart of the mystery remained. Upon arrival at the park's trailhead, investigators were met with an eerie sight. James's vehicle remained stationary, untouched since his journey began. A search of the car yielded a seemingly ordinary receipt from Safeway, dated December 22nd, time stamped at 10:20 a.m. It recorded James's purchase of Folgers instant coffee and, curiously, a Tootsie Roll. While seemingly mundane, these items painted a vivid picture of the beginning of James's fateful hike. Eagerly, the search team pressed on. Their voices echoed off the surrounding foliage as they called out for James, hoping for any sign of him. The trail remained as prominent and clear as always, but James was nowhere to be found. However, an intriguing breakthrough awaited. After a thorough review of surveillance footage, they identified vehicles that had been parked concurrently with James's. One such vehicle belonged to a couple who recounted a fateful encounter with James at the hot springs. They recalled he was in high spirits, sharing beverages with them. The couple noted seeing him later preparing to head back down the trail, backpack in tow. The trail, a mere 2-mile trek, with its gentle slope leading back to the parking area, shouldn't have posed a challenge. But as the rangers retraced his steps, a chilling discovery awaited. About a half-mile from the parking area, near a creek off the trail, they found James's backpack. Concealed with a towel and propped against a log, its contents seemed untouched: a can of Coca-Cola, a cup, and even a cigarette butt of James's preferred brand. Strangely, they also found a mountain meal, a prepackaged survival food, untouched, despite the stove and fuel found in his backpack. Intriguingly, a camera nestled within his belongings provided an additional layer of mystery. The film, once developed, showcased scenic shots typical of a nature lover. However, the last 2 shots deviated from this pattern. Instead of the meticulously framed beauty one might expect, they seemed almost random. One showcased dense shadow foliage across the creek, the other a boulder-strewn stretch of the creek. What was James trying to capture? And then there's the creek. On the other side of where James's belongings were found, the terrain becomes incredibly steep. This region of Olympic National Park is synonymous with relentless rain, making the territory not just challenging, but potentially treacherous. So, with these new details in hand, the quest to unravel the mystery of James's disappearance continues. What might have been a routine hike in one of the world's rainiest regions turned into a perplexing enigma. This backdrop set the scene for a confounding search. Upon finding James's backpack with no trace of James himself, the authorities ramped up their efforts, even getting James's family involved. They introduced James's dog, known for its close bond with him, to the site, hoping it would lead them to him. The attempt, however, was futile. Undeterred, park rangers deployed 3 separate canine teams in the subsequent weeks. Despite the expansive search, they found no trace of James. The relentless rain, characteristic of the area, coupled with the ensuing dense fog, hampered the efforts considerably, leading to a scaled-down search. Only 6 personnel, paired with 3 canine units, continued to search for James. Surprisingly, about a month after his disappearance, on January 25th, one team made an unexpected discovery. On a steep incline opposite the creek, considered improbable terrain for James due to his known foot injury, they found a Tootsie Roll wrapper. James's recent purchase receipt corroborated this find. Further up, a devastating discovery awaited: James's body lying near a log. Bizarrely, there were no injury marks or signs of trauma, and he seemed to be fully dressed. After a forensic examination, the results only deepened the mystery. The coroner identified the cause of death as hypothermia, labeling it accidental. This verdict raised many questions. Why would James, equipped with a coat and seemingly prepared for the cold, sit by a creek if he felt hypothermic? Why would he cross the creek and ascend 1,700 feet on a challenging incline, despite a debilitating foot injury? Furthermore, the earlier involvement of canine units failed to detect any scent of James. Only by sheer chance did the team decide to explore uphill, and even then, the dogs only acknowledged the presence of a body when virtually on top of him. The circumstances of James's final moments, from the inexplicably missed scent to his mysterious uphill journey and Tootsie Roll wrapper, leave us with more questions than answers. Olympic National Park boasts lush, dense greenery, a backdrop to James's puzzling tale. Imagine a man positioned to prepare a meal by the creek, only to traverse it and then journey uphill, seemingly just to eat a Tootsie Roll. One might wonder if it was even James who consumed the candy, or perhaps someone or something else. Oddly, the coroner's report adds another layer of mystery. The documented time of death is January 25th, the very day James was discovered, despite him being missing for 30 days. In such conditions, one would expect some level of decomposition, but surprisingly, James's body seemed unaffected. Furthermore, tests revealed no trace of drugs or alcohol in his system. The situation seems inexplicable. A man on disability decides to venture half a mile from his vehicle, sets out to make a meal, and then is possibly interrupted. What could have prompted such a man to cross a creek and ascend steep, rugged terrain, only to meet his end from hypothermia next to a log, apparently an entire month later? It's a perplexing case. The official report states James's death was accidental, caused by hypothermia. The theory suggests James deviated from the well-maintained path, consumed a Tootsie Roll, and then ascended further and met his fate a month after his disappearance. The narrative is baffling, and I'm eager to know what others think. Could James have been coerced uphill by an external entity or force? And if so, why does his body show no evidence of distress or trauma? And where was he for the duration of those missing 30 days? I'd appreciate insights and theories, as this case leaves me with more questions than answers. Share your thoughts in the comments below. The unsettling disappearance of Bradley Wayne Allen, a 19-year-old man from Fountain Hill, Arkansas, remains an unresolved chapter in missing person cases. His life, interwoven with his girlfriend Megan Cody and their young son on his grandfather's 20-acre property, took an unexpected turn in 2017. On June 18th, Bradley's life took a mysterious twist following a heated argument with Megan at their home. Seeking solitude and space to gather his thoughts, Bradley set out for a walk in the surrounding woods, a place he presumably knew well. He assured Megan that he would return in a few hours, leaving her to eventually fall asleep expecting his return. The morning light broke to reveal Bradley's continued absence, raising Megan's concern to alarming levels. His failure to return was unusual, given he had left behind essential items like his wallet and debit card, later discovered in their house. With no word from Bradley for 4 consecutive days, his family's worry escalated, compelling them to file a missing person report with the Ashley County Sheriff's Office. Investigations into his bank and phone records unearthed a troubling fact. There had been no activity on either since the day that he had vanished. Adding to the mystery, Bradley had not retrieved his paycheck, though it was readily available on a bank card issued by his employer. In an intensive search operation, a specialized missing persons unit and sniffer dogs were deployed. The dogs successfully tracked Bradley's scent down the road from his residence, only for the trail to inexplicably vanish after several miles. This abrupt end to the scent trailed intensified speculations of possible foul play in the woods, yet no definitive evidence or suspects have emerged to date. Bradley, described as having brown hair, green eyes, standing 5'9" tall, and weighing approximately 165 pounds, has distinct tattoos that could aid in his identification. These include a spider web on his left elbow, barbed wire around his right bicep, and several tattoos on his back, including names with religious symbols. On the day he disappeared, he was last seen wearing a light-colored shirt, black shorts with a red stripe, black shoes, and a black baseball cap. As the years have passed, the mystery of Bradley's disappearance lingers. The Ashley County Sheriff's Office, committed to resolving this and other unsolved cases, continues to seek information that could shed light on Bradley's fate. With a community in suspense and a family seeking closure, any information regarding Bradley's whereabouts or circumstances surrounding his disappearance could be pivotal in unraveling this perplexing case. The unresolved case of Deborah Melo's disappearance on June 20th of 2000 in Massachusetts continues to haunt both her family and the community. The circumstances surrounding her vanishing paint a picture of domestic turmoil and unanswered questions. Deborah, 30 years old at the time, resided in Taunton with her husband, Lewis. They jointly managed a Dunkin' Donuts in Braintree, a task that intertwined their professional and personal lives. It was a period of significant strain in their marriage. Deborah was seriously considering a divorce. She had expressed to her family her intentions to retain the family home and custody of their children once Lewis moved out. This backdrop of marital discord set the stage for the day that she vanished. The day started ordinarily enough, but soon escalated into a heated dispute. Deborah and Lewis were driving back from a doctor's appointment when they began to argue over financial issues. The argument intensified to such an extent that Deborah, in a moment of exasperation, requested to be let out of the car on the side of Route 18 around 4 p.m. Lewis complied with her request, a decision that would mark the last time he saw his wife. In a puzzling twist, when Lewis returned to the location a few minutes later, Deborah was nowhere to be seen. Her personal effects, including her cell phone, wallet, and ID, were left behind in the car, suggesting her disappearance was sudden and unplanned. The subsequent police investigation focused on unraveling the circumstances of Deborah's disappearance. While Lewis was declared a person of interest, he was not officially labeled a suspect. Claims from Deborah's family about Lewis failing 2 polygraph tests have circulated, yet this story remains unconfirmed by the investigators. Search efforts were extensive. Ground and air searches scoured the area where Deborah was last seen, but no significant leads or clues were uncovered. Despite the suspicious context of her disappearance, investigators have not firmly pointed to foul play. Deborah Melo is described as having brown hair, brown eyes, a height of 5'3" and weighing approximately 115 pounds. She can be recognized by her tattoo of a rose with the name Louis on her right shoulder. On the day of her disappearance, she was wearing a blue sundress with white flowers, a white undershirt, white shoes, and 2 distinctive rings, one with a diamond and the other bearing her name. The Massachusetts State Police continue to seek information that could shed light on Deborah's disappearance. Her case remains a deeply troubling chapter in the lives of her loved ones and a mystery that still seeks resolution.
Today, we'll delve into the tragic and mysterious disappearance of Michael Paul LeMaitre, who went missing during the 2012 Mount Marathon race in Seward, Alaska. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing stories like this one. So let's dive in. Mount Marathon, located in Alaska, is well known for its annual race held on the 4th of July. This challenging 5K features a grueling climb and descent with an elevation gain of around 3,000 feet. The race is not for the faint of heart, and competitors must navigate steep, treacherous terrain. Originating in 1915, the Mount Marathon race has become a beloved tradition for both the local community and the adventurous runners worldwide. Each year, hundreds of participants flock to Seward, Alaska to test their limits and conquer the mountain. However, the race has also seen its fair share of accidents, injuries, and even a few fatalities. On July 4, 2012, a 65-year-old Michael Paul LeMaitre took part in this iconic race. He was a devoted husband, father, and grandfather, and an avid runner. Little did he know that this race would be his last. As the day unfolded, LeMaitre would vanish without a trace, leaving behind a heartbroken family and a community searching for answers. Paul LeMaitre was not an elite athlete, but he was passionate about running and eager to participate in this challenging event. Despite the inherent risks, he was determined to prove himself and conquer Mount Marathon. LeMaitre was last seen near the summit of Mount Marathon, lagging behind other racers. Although he was not as fast as some of his younger competitors, his determination was undeniable. When he failed to return after the race, his family and friends grew concerned. It wasn't long before search parties were dispatched to comb the mountain for any sign of him. The following is the actual search party featured on the hit TV show, Alaskan State Troopers.
I got called to search and rescue. A 66-year-old male went up over the top, last seen about 6 p.m. till about 9:30 right now. This is this man's first time running this mountain. Got a helo on standby. We're going to have a spotter go up with him and see if they can find him.
We do have a last visual of him at the top of the mountain. These two cliff areas, this is a 300-foot drop right here, and this backside is vicious.
The troopers can't waste any time. In less than an hour away, the temperature will drop to around 40 degrees.
We got about 40 minutes or so of daylight. We're going to start pulling people off here pretty soon. Okay. All right? It's too dangerous for you guys to be up there at night.
Mount Marathon frequently attracts novice racers who fail to recognize the peril, a blunder that some may not have a chance to repeat. Troopers dispatched seasoned hiker David Lorraine to scale the mountain slopes.
I have knowledge of this mountain, and if we have any search and rescues on this mountain, I'm the one that's supposed to respond to it.
So that's where they wanted me to go.
The path that existed earlier today is transformed into a muddy torrent where a single misstep could result in a fatal plunge equivalent to a 30-story descent.
So they put this trail in to bypass these rocks here to come up, but as you can see, this trail is pretty slippery. People are, they're just coming down fast and they slip on the slippery rocks. The next thing you know, it's a good little drop down to the bottom of the chute there.
Clearly, the higher you go, the colder it gets. Hypothermia, especially when you get damp and in these conditions in a rainforest type of environment, it can set in really fast.
A cry for help gets the troopers' attention, but it's a female voice.
You in the trees? Can you see me? I'm coming. Just stay there, don't move. You aren't cut up or anything? Okay. Pretty cold?
Yeah. Is there down there, is there anywhere I can go in?
Yeah, we'll get you help.
She had a pair of running pants on, they were ripped. I did see a little bit of blood. She was shivering, she was sopping wet. She was stuck.
Okay, this is really bad right here. Yeah.
Mm. 2142. 2142. 42.
This was right on the bottom, I don't know. If it could be a clue or something. We'll go straight there at this last part.
Yeah,
That's not his?
I don't know. Is it?
Do we know where the family is?
One of them's in here.
In the back on the couch there.
Did you see what he was wearing this morning by chance?
I didn't.
Okay.
Where was that located at?
It was on the mountain, down low, but
probably not.
As daylight fades, the ground searchers decide to suspend their efforts until morning. However, with LeMaitre at risk of succumbing to the freezing temperatures overnight, a final attempt is made to locate him using an aerial thermal camera.
The weather, the rain coming down, and if they find this guy, they've got to offload the trooper in the dark. The temperature's down pretty low. With that thermal camera, we'll be able to spot him pretty quick. He's going to stick out like a sore thumb up there. Landing could mean a couple of different things. They could be having trouble with the helicopter, or they could have found the subject. They could be trying to get down to him. Okay, so no contact with him right now.
We are currently on the hillside. We're yelling and waiting for a response. We have no contact with anybody. We're just waiting to see if we are going to hear anything.
The helicopter searches throughout the night and into the next day and finds nothing.
It's been over 72 hours. During this time frame, I've probably received about 10 hours sleep. I'm gonna kind of go home and try to reprocess and reorganize things. It really teaches you to focus what's important in life, because none of us really know what the future holds. All we really have is the now.
Searchers comb the mountain day and night using helicopters, dogs, and ground teams in an effort to locate LeMaitre. They searched every possible trail and even ventured off the established paths, hoping to find any clues that might lead them to him. But as the days wore on and the search area expanded, the chances of finding him alive began to diminish. The search for LeMaitre was extensive, with authorities, volunteers, and family members scouring the mountain and its surrounding areas. Despite their efforts, no trace of him was ever found. The search was eventually called off, but his family continued their quest for answers, determined to uncover what happened to their beloved Paul. Over the years, various groups and individuals have returned to Mount Marathon to continue the search for LeMaitre. Some have even claimed to have found personal items that may have belonged to him, but to date, no definitive evidence has been uncovered. LeMaitre's disappearance not only left the family in mourning, but it also raised serious questions about the safety of the Mount Marathon race. In the wake of this tragedy, race organizers implemented improved communication systems and increased safety measures to ensure the well-being of future participants. They also established cutoff times for racers to reach specific checkpoints, providing a better way to monitor their progress and ensure that no one is left behind. Additionally, the race now requires participants to carry a personal tracking device, which allows organizers and emergency personnel to locate them in case of an accident or an emergency. These changes were made in the hope that no family would ever have to endure the same heartache that Paul LeMaitre's loved ones face. The disappearance of Michael Paul LeMaitre remains shrouded in mystery. Some speculate that he may have succumbed to the harsh Alaskan wilderness or perhaps encountered a wild animal. Others suggest that he may have become disoriented and wandered off the trail. Despite the many theories, there is still no concrete evidence as to what truly happened. LeMaitre's story has captured the attention of the public and the media, with many drawn to the unsolved mystery and the unwavering determination of his family to find the answers. Their continued search serves as a testament to their love for Paul and their desire for closure. As we remember Michael Paul LeMaitre and his family, we're reminded of the importance of staying safe and vigilant in the great outdoors. This tragic story serves as a cautionary tale for all adventurers.
The mysterious case of Dylan Rounds, a 19-year-old from Montello, Nevada, who vanished on May 26th of 2022, stands as a reminder and as an unsolved puzzle in the archives of missing person cases. Dylan's disappearance under strange circumstances has not only left his family and community in distress, but also posed a significant challenge to investigators. Dylan, a young man with a life rooted in the rural landscapes of eastern Idaho, had been living and working in Utah. He spent his days on his family's 600-acre farm, dedicating himself to the demanding but rewarding work of farming. The routine nature of his life, however, was shattered by a series of peculiar events leading up to his disappearance. A crucial piece of this puzzle was Dylan's encounter with a shoeless man who flagged down his truck. The man, exhibiting erratic behavior, asked Dylan for the use of his phone and a ride, requests that Dylan denied. This strange interaction would later gain significance as the man was reportedly seen in Montello days later, inquiring about Dylan's whereabouts, adding a layer of concern to this unfolding mystery. Dylan's last known sighting was the Saddle Sore Bar in Montello on the night of May 26th. 2 days later, he had a phone conversation with his grandmother, promising to call her again later. However, this was the final contact anyone had with Dylan, marking the beginning of an agonizing period of uncertainty for his family and friends. The alarm over his disappearance was raised when he failed to return home or make further contact. His family, deeply concerned, filed a missing persons report with the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office on May 30th. That same day, investigators stumbled upon a perplexing clue: Dylan's boots, found about 100 yards from where his grain truck was parked. They appeared to have been casually discarded. The discovery of what seemed to be biological materials on the boots prompted forensic testing, adding a critical dimension to this investigation. Further searches led to the discovery of Dylan's phone, last active during the call with his grandmother. The phone's location was traced to within 15 miles of the farm, yet it offered no additional leads. More puzzling was the state of Dylan's maroon Ford pickup truck found at the farm. It had been freshly pressure washed. The driver's seat was adjusted way too far forward for Dylan's use, and the vehicle was inexplicably in four-wheel drive mode, a function that was known to be faulty on his truck. These unusual findings have led investigators to suspect foul play in Dylan's disappearance. The FBI's involvement in the case underscores the seriousness of the situation and the complexity of the mystery surrounding Dylan's fate. In an effort to find their son, Dylan's parents have offered a substantial reward of $100,000 for information leading to his whereabouts, whether he is found alive or not. Described as having brown hair and brown eyes, standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, and weighing around 160 pounds, Dylan was last seen wearing jeans, a dark shirt, and a flannel jacket. The Box Elder County Sheriff's Office continues to seek any information that could shed light on Dylan Rounds' disappearance. His story, transcending the details of a typical missing person case, embodies the enduring struggle of a family in search of answers and a community united in the face of a profound mystery. In 1965, the city of Atlanta was shaken by the perplexing disappearance of Mary Shotwell Little, a secretary at Georgia's CNS Bank, now known as Nations Bank. This mystery unfolded when Mary's husband, Roy Little, a bank examiner training to become an auditor, was out of town. Mary had planned a celebration for Roy's return. After work, she went grocery shopping and then dined with a colleague at the Piccadilly Cafeteria in Atlanta's upscale Buckhead neighborhood, part of Lenox Square Shopping Center. Described as cheerful and happily discussing her marriage, Mary left the dinner around 8 p.m. That was the last time she was seen. The next day, Mary's unexpected absence from work raised concerns. Her co-worker who had dinner with her and her boss noted her absence. Mary's new metallic pearl gray 1965 Mercury Comet with Georgia license plate 2829 was parked near Lenox Square. When Mary's bank supervisor found her car, it was coated in red dust as though driven on a dirt road, and contained grocery bags, cigarettes, Coke bottles, and her undergarments. The neatly folded clothes and the stockings sliced by a knife suggested a staged scene. A small amount of smeared blood, likely Mary's, covered the front seats and the inside window, but the amount was minimal. On October 15th, the day after Mary's disappearance, her gas credit card was used at 2 ESO stations in North Carolina, first in Charlotte, her hometown, and then in Raleigh. At both locations, attendants reported a woman with head injuries and bloodstains, accompanied by 1 or 2 controlling middle-aged men Despite her visible distress, the woman did not seek help and seemed to be trying to hide her face. The authorities theorized that her car might have been hidden on the night of her disappearance and then returned to its original parking spot. This theory remains unproven. In the wake of publicizing the credit card information, a ransom demand of $20,000 was made for Mary. The caller instructed Roy to head to a specific overpass and await further instruction, but only a blank piece of paper was found there. The caller never contacted the family again. Roy Little, Mary's husband, came under suspicion due to his apparent lack of concern and refusal to take lie detector tests. Despite speculation, Roy had no motive for Mary's disappearance, and their marriage showed no signs of strain. He never faced any criminal charges related to Mary's case. Around the time of Mary's disappearance, a sex scandal at the bank emerged, involving claims of lesbian harassment. Mary was aware of the scandal, but it is not believed to be linked to her disappearance. In the weeks leading up to her vanishing, Mary received unsettling phone calls at work and flowers from an unknown admirer, the source of which remains unidentified. 18 months after Mary's disappearance, in May of 1967, a colleague from the same office, Diane Shields, was found dead in her car, leading to initial speculation of a connection between the two cases. However, this theory was eventually abandoned, and like Mary Shields' murder, remains unsolved. Over the years, some investigators have theorized that Mary may have staged her disappearance, while others believe she was kidnapped. Before Mary headed to her car on the night of her disappearance, a woman reported being approached by a man in the Lenox Square Shopping Center's parking lot, a potential link to Mary's case that remains unexplored. Despite continued efforts and speculation, the file on Mary's case disappeared, and her mother tirelessly searched for her until her own death in 1979. The mystery of Mary Shotwell Little's disappearance remains unsolved, a haunting mystery in the heart of Atlanta. Skidmore, Missouri, a small rural town in Nowadays County, is noted for its vast open fields and a close-knit community of roughly 250 residents. This town, about an hour and 45 minutes north of Kansas City, has witnessed some unusual occurrences over the years, notably the story of Ken McElroy, a notorious local criminal. McElroy was shot and killed in 1981 in his truck after leaving a bar with his wife. Despite the presence of up to 46 witnesses, no one ever provided information about the shooter, and the case remains unsolved. This incident underscores the tight-knit and sometimes secretive nature of the community, a trait that also features prominently in the baffling disappearance of Branson Perry. 20 years after McElroy's death, in April of 2001, Branson Perry, then 20 years old, inexplicably vanished. Perry, a typical young man from Middle America, had graduated from Nowadays Holt High School in 1999. Post-graduation, he held various jobs, reflecting the limited opportunities in a small town rather than a lack of ambition or work ethic. Known as a good kid in the community, Branson worked mainly in roofing, supplementing his income with a job at a traveling petting zoo. Despite suffering from a condition causing rapid heartbeat, he was active in martial arts, earning a black belt in Hapkido. Branson lived with his father, Bob, in a modest, single-story house at 304 West Oak Street in Skidmore, embodying the town's unpretentious lifestyle. However, beneath the surface, Branson faced personal challenges that were not immediately apparent. A few days before his disappearance, an incident occurred with his neighbor, Jason Bierman, which might have had implications for the case. Bierman, a somewhat dubious character, slightly older than Branson, gave Perry an unidentified drug on April 7th, causing erratic behavior. The specifics of their interaction are unclear, but Branson later confided in his father about the experience, which angered Bob, especially considering his son's efforts to overcome drug addiction. On April 8th, Branson visited his father in the hospital, where Bob had been recuperating from an illness and surgery. During these visits, Branson informed his father about the incident with Jason, which was particularly troubling to Bob. Bob's hospitalization meant he couldn't confront Jason, and before he could act on this information, Branson had already disappeared. The day Branson vanished, April 11th of 2001, began with routine activities at his home. Branson and his friend Jenna Crawford were cleaning the house in anticipation of Bob's return from the hospital. While they worked inside, two mechanics were outside fixing the family's car. At one point, Jenna noticed Branson quickly grab something from the kitchen cabinet and rush outside. She later speculated what he might have taken and whether it was related to his disappearance. Later that afternoon, Jenna witnessed Branson outside the house. When she asked what he was doing, he mentioned he was going to put away a pair of jumper cables and then briefly leave. Those were his last known words. No one saw him leave the property, and he didn't mention his destination. Branson left his wallet, keys, and a cashed paycheck at his home, indicating he planned to return shortly. Jenna eventually went home, not suspecting anything amiss, and the mechanics left as well. Concerns about Branson's whereabouts grew when his grandmother, Joanne Stinnett, realized he hadn't visited his father at the hospital, breaking his daily routine. She visited the Perry home, found the front door unlocked, but no sign of Branson. After waiting and making inquiries with no success, Joanne contacted the police, initiating a large-scale search operation. The search for Branson Perry involved local police, the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and many volunteers. It spanned a 15-mile radius around Skidmore, including fields and woods. Despite these extensive efforts, no trace of Branson was found. The investigation revealed his struggles with drug addiction, which he kept hidden from many, including his family. He had been planning to enter rehab, adding complexity to his disappearance. Amidst the search, an incident involving a local minister, Jack Rogers, would later emerge as a potential lead in Branson's case. Rogers was arrested in April of 2003 for unrelated charges of assault and illegal medical practice. During the investigation into Rogers, authorities discovered disturbing evidence at his home, including photos of young people and a turtle claw necklace resembling one that was owned by Branson. Online, Rogers had shared graphic stories of mutilation and torture under pseudonyms. In one story, he described picking up a young blonde hitchhiker, torturing, mutilating, and ultimately murdering him, then burying the body in the Ozarks. Though Rogers denied involvement in Branson's disappearance, the coincidences were alarming. As the years passed, the case grew colder, though law enforcement continued to pursue leads. In 2009, a tip led to an extensive search in Quitman, Missouri, but yielded no results. Branson's family, devastated by his absence, could only hope for closure. His father, Bob, passed away in 2004, and his mother in 2011, both without knowing what happened to their son. An empty plot beside his mother's grave awaits Branson, with a headstone marking his disappearance date as the day of his death. As of August of 2022, Nottoway County Sheriff Randy Strong announced a significant suspect in the case, yet still awaited concrete evidence for an arrest. The mystery of Branson Perry's disappearance continues to loom over Skidmore, a small town with a history of unsolved mysteries. The community and law enforcement hope that one day the truth about what happened to Branson will emerge and come to light.
The first snowfall of the year is usually a beautiful and joyous celebration in the small ski town of Mammoth Lakes in California's Eastern Sierra. But the early October snow in 2013 was disheartening for the searchers of a missing Pennsylvania man. Hope was fading with the inevitable change in season, and those close to him were starting to understand the grave reality that he may never be found. From more than 2,500 miles away, his loved ones experienced a tug-of-war between despair and optimism, feeling helpless across the country as they went through the motions of their daily lives. 3 months earlier, in July, the 39-year-old high school math teacher dropped his car off at a Mammoth Auto car shop for repairs.
He was visiting the area for a summer climbing vacation when the car blew a head gasket. The friends Greene was traveling with headed home, and Greene planned to drive to Colorado to join other friends for more climbing as soon as his car was ready. "I may have to spend the rest of my life here in Mammoth," he texted to a friend as he got more and more frustrated with how long the repair was taking. He was anxious to get on with his trip. No one has heard from Greene since he last talked to his parents on July 16, 2013. He did not tell anyone his plans for the following day. He never picked up his car. His campsite was left tidy, and his credit cards and phone have not been used since. Matthew had a habit of ripping out pages from a guidebook as to where he planned to hike, instead of taking the entire book with him. When he returned from a hike, he would replace the missing pages as a trophy of sorts. The only clue that was found was a few pages torn from a mountaineering guidebook, and this pointed toward the Minarets and Ritter Range in the Ansel Adams Wilderness. At the time, Mammoth Lakes was experiencing sunshine and above-average temperatures. On July 29, 2013, Matthew Greene was reported missing, and his body has not been found in the years since. In 2013, more than 600,000 Americans were reported missing in the United States, according to the FBI and National Crime Information Center. At the end of the year, nearly 85,000 of those cases were still active. At the time he went missing, Matthew Greene was the only unsolved missing person case in Mammoth Lakes, and in January 2014, Reed's family filed for a death certificate in Pennsylvania. But the case is still open with the Mammoth Lakes Police Department. Most people assume that Matt was a victim of some sort of climbing accident, a fall of some sort, said his friend John Greco, that met him in California. But all his friends agreed that he was experienced, skilled, and careful in the mountains. Born on September 8, 1973, to Robert and Patricia Greene, Matthew is the second of 4 children. He grew up in rural Pennsylvania, developing a love for the outdoors from a young age. He was a Boy Scout and often went hunting and fishing with his dad. Growing up in the boondocks of Franklin Townships was a blessing. Greene wrote in 1999 in a letter to his sister, Tiffany Minto, when he was in the Peace Corps. "I came out of there with independence, a love of nature, and a determination to succeed in school, life, or whatever." When they were kids, Greene would take Minto fishing and target shooting at the lake, where they'd stay until bugs feasted on their arms. They went hiking together often, even in the really cold winters common to the Northeast. The ice didn't slow him down one bit. "I struggled to keep up," Minto said. Greene loved to run, competing on the track team in high school and running the Boston Marathon a few times as an adult. As the student speaker for his high school graduation, Greene urged his classmates to take chances. "The time has come to fulfill our current goals and to set new ones to be conquered later. In our future travels and endeavors, no matter where they take us, we must not use our youthful imaginations. We must not be too scared to take risks, and most of all, we must live life to the fullest," Matthews said in his high school graduation speech. Greene went on to study at Clemson University in South Carolina before transferring to and graduating from Penn State University. As a Peace Corps volunteer on a teaching assignment in Papua New Guinea from 1998 to 2001, he regularly wrote letters to her sister giving her advice on life, college, and relationships. Any associations you have in your life can be lumped into one of these 3 categories: people who push you forward, people who drag you down, and people who do neither, he wrote. He also wrote to friends, telling tales of his adventures, like walking 6 hours to fix a radio transceiver in a hiking tour, which was a 9-hour trek across dense brush and mountainous terrain, where he found himself crossing a roaring 100-foot waterfall, wading for shallow rivers, carefully walking, and descending countless valleys. In his letters, Greene not only gave accounts of his work and explorations, but he also contemplated life and its greater meanings. He
He wrote, "It's a pitiful thing when people reach the point in their lives where passionate inclinations in their lives no longer win out over regular routines. I don't know why our minds always gravitate towards reason. It's a nuisance. At least for me. It takes a lot of mental effort to give in to his passions, but once I've devoted myself to them, I'm never plagued with regret." When he returned from the Peace Corps, Greene got a job as a high school math teacher in Pennsylvania and would go on summer climbing trips to fulfill his needs for adventure. He often traveled out west solo for camping, hiking, and climbing, occasionally meeting up with friends along the way. In 2006, he road tripped through South Dakota, Wyoming, and on to Red Lodge, Montana. When his car broke down at the end of the trip, he tooled around town and hitchhiked to a trailhead. In his trip log, he wrote, over the course of a few days, "I put in an awesome 10-hour hike. The rock was surprisingly solid. Yet, some big pieces moved. I returned to find that rodents had torn into my engine plug wires, vacuum hoses, and mostly wire sheathing. I coasted into town and took my car into the shop. They should get to it tomorrow morning." The next day, he wrote, "Same as yesterday, no car yet. Hitched a ride out to the Bear Track and hiked up the Silver Plateau. It's awesome up there. Good mix of pines and open fields. More reading, more net searching, coming up with a plan. Yellowstone, climb Tiwanaut, Wind River Range, ring the bells, maybe the Great Sands Dunes, and Long's Peak, then home. Still waiting on that car." Greene arrived in Mammoth Lake a few days before he met up with his friends Jon and Jill Greco on June 28, 2013. He set up camp at New Shady Rest Campground on the edge of town and paid for July 7th. Jon, Jill, and their 9-year-old son checked in at a hotel nearby. Over the next 10 days, Greene and Jon climbed many of the region's classic routes, places like Crystal Crag, Clark's Canyon, and the Gong Show Crag. They also hiked a few of the Eastern Sierra's classic alpine routes. Greene kept a handwritten log of his climbs, sometimes elaborate and other times brief. He often checked and reported conditions on websites. During this trip, he wrote on Summit Post, "Did the V-Notch on Saturday, July 6th. We easily crossed it via a snow bridge. We studied the route well for signs of rockfall before committing, and only had one baseball-sized rock rocket down during our ascent. Tons of rocks were falling the U-Notch." During Greene's time in Mammoth, his Subaru was in and out of the auto repair shop. It would get fixed, then overheat, driving up a steep grade and go back to the mechanic. It was finally diagnosed with a blown head gasket, which would take additional time to repair. On July 7th, Jon and Jill were scheduled to leave Mammoth Lakes. Jon had a work meeting in Southern California the next day, and Matt planned to leave for Colorado to meet up with some other friends. That morning, the whole group hiked to Emerald Lake in the Mammoth Lakes Basin before Matt continued up the trail to the Mammoth Crest, and Jon and Jill headed down to their car to begin the drive. It was the last time any of Matt's friends would ever see him again. As we were walking down the trail, I say to my husband, "You know, he goes off like this, and he doesn't tell anybody. If something happens to him, nobody will know where to look," Jill said. Her husband said, "Yeah, and the bad thing about it is that his car won't be at the trailhead." Even though Greene had planned to leave that day as well, his car was still in the shop. He was fine being stuck in Mammoth. It's not like he was in the middle of some remote backcountry area. There were shuttles to take you all over the place, and he thought it was only going to be a couple of days. Over the next 8 days, Greene continued to climb classic Sierra peaks and routes, checking in with Jon and Jill by text message every few days. On July 8th, Greene soloed Regal Huff Minaret, a 10,560-foot spire in the Ritter Range west of Mammoth Lakes. On July 9th, Greene headed north to climb Dana Kowar, a popular 1,200-foot ice route on a 13,000-foot peak near Yosemite Park's entrance. Later, he sent Jon an update. The Regal Huff Minaret took less than 6.5 hours round trip, but was scary, and the Dana Colwar was easy but fun and had the best ice of the trip. July 10th was a rest day. On July 11th, Greene took the shuttle to Red's Meadow Valley to hike and climb in the Minarets and Ritter Range again. On the ride to the trailhead, he spoke to a Devil's Post maintenance worker. They talked about climbing Mount Ritter, Banner Peak, Clyde Minaret, and the cross-country hikes between the Minaret Lakes. Matthew was not sure of his itinerary for the day when he got off the shuttle at the Devil's Post Pile trailhead, but he eventually climbed the 12,280-foot Clyde Minaret, the tallest of the Minaret's jagged peaks. From July 12th to the 15th, Greene hiked the cross-country route on Mammoth Crest, and he climbed Unicorn Peak in Yosemite's high country. On July 16th, he went to the Mammoth Lakes Library to use the internet. He called his parents and the mechanic, then sent a few text messages and made a small purchase at Rite Aid. He paid the campground for the night and the next day. Since Jill and Jon left Mammoth, they continued texting back and forth with Greene every few days. Jill updated him on details for a trip to France they were tentatively planning later that summer, and Jon received updates on the climbs Greene had done. Jill grew concerned when Greene stopped responding to texts. At first, she didn't think anything about it. Then she called him, and her husband sent him a text. Again, they didn't hear from him. On July 21st, after 3 unpaid nights, the host at the campground reported the abandoned campsite and suspicion of a missing person to the Mammoth Lakes Police Department. 2 officers responded to the call, visited the campground, and recorded the information on a police log. Campsite number 164 was left intact, but Greene had not returned to it. His neatly folded laundry was stored inside the tent along with some gear. His food was in the bear box. MLPD Detective Doug Hordback said, "We can't really do a whole lot unless a missing person report is filed. We'll get a name and the information, we'll put it on the log, and that's as far as it goes at this point." So the campsite was broken down, Greene's gear was put into storage, and new campers soon occupied the site. On July 26, Greene's mom expressed concern that she hadn't heard from Matt. She'd been leaving messages that went unanswered. But Greene often went on long hikes and backpacking trips and didn't return messages immediately. Sometimes it would take him days or weeks to readjust to society after a good trek. He enjoyed the solitude of the wilderness and was not into technology, so his sister Minto brushed off his mom's concerns. She said he probably couldn't charge his phone or was spending some time in the backcountry. They knew that Greene could not use his car phone charger because his Subaru was still in the shop, so she thought maybe his phone was dead. Still, she knew that his lack of response was unusual, and she grew increasingly concerned when she didn't hear from him for 10 days. Jon called Tony, Greene's friend, that he was planning to meet in Colorado to see if Greene had arrived. Maybe he was spending time in the backcountry, Tony suggested. On July 29th, 7 days after Greene's campsite was packed up and put into storage, Jill called the Norco Goodyear to inquire about his car. She was told it had been ready since July 18th. Greene had not responded to a message saying the car was ready, and he had not picked it up. Jill then called the Mammoth Lakes Welcome Center and talked to a ranger. She asked for someone to check on his campsite, and the ranger insisted she file a missing persons report. 13 days after Greene disappeared, he was officially reported missing. Greene was no stranger to climbing mountains. His list of ascents logged on Summit Post read like the resume of an experienced mountaineer. His friends said he was skillful on ice, calculated in the outdoors, and did not take risks. More than 2 weeks after Greene talked to his parents for the last time, Detective Hornback contacted Verizon for an emergency information request. Verizon concluded that Greene's phone had been powered off for quite some time, and there was no way to track the current location. The last ping was registered to the cellular tower on Mammoth Mountain on July 16th. According to Detective Hornback, the ping created a cone-shaped triangle with towers in Fresno and June Lake, indicated that Greene's phone was located within that region, which consists of mostly of the Ansel Adams Wilderness. The Mammoth Lakes Police Department did not find any evidence of foul play, and the possibility of suicide was quickly ruled out. Greene did not have any financial trouble. He was single and showed no signs of depression. When the Grecos last saw him in Mammoth, Jill said he was as normal and optimistic as he normally was. On July 31st, Detective Hornbeck notified Bill Greene, no relation, at Mono County Sheriff's Search and Rescue. Typically, when a person is reported overdue in the mountains, SAR launches an investigation. They are quick to respond and have a healthy roster of volunteers that are experienced mountaineers, but Matthew Greene did not tell anyone where he was going. And his car was still at the mechanics, so they didn't even have a trailhead to go from. Without a known location, SAR could not begin a search. Matthew Greene could have gone anywhere. Most of his equipment was stored in his car, which was parked outside the Norco Goodyear while waiting for repair, meaning he had access to his personal belongings 24 hours a day. From an inventory of the equipment left in his car and tent, friends were able to deduce what he was carrying with him. He was probably wearing a blue outdoor ball cap, a black t-shirt over a long-sleeve green shirt, and mountaineering approach shoes. He had a large black and white mountain hardware backpack, an ice axe, black diamond crampons, and was either carrying or wearing boots. He did not have overnight gear. Since he had no vehicle, Greene's only option to get to trailheads was to either walk, hitchhike, or public transport. With a number of local shuttle services, which Greene had used in the week prior to his disappearance, he could have made it to a number of trailheads, from the Mammoth Lakes Basin to Yosemite Valley. From the guidebook found in his belongings, Chapter 12 was torn out, which included minarets and June Lake. With the shuttle to Red's Meadow, Greene could have been at any one of 3 main trailheads in the valley that leads to a network of paths that access the trail ranges in the wilderness. The 231,533-acre wilderness area is located west of Mammoth Lakes and the Sierra Nevada crest in Madera County. It shares a border with Yosemite National Park to the north and the 581,000-acre John Muir Wilderness to the south. The region is popular for hiking, backpacking, and climbing. The mountain range is vast and rugged. Even though SAR could not launch a full-on search without a known destination, they sent teams to the Minaret region on training missions. They checked summit registers in the range, and a helicopter team did a flyover. Detective Hornback worked with the U.S. Forest Service to contact people with overnight wilderness permits for the region. If anyone spoke with Greene on the trail or shuttle or gave him a ride, they have not come forward yet, or they do not know he is missing. Greene's family hired an aerial tour company to fly over the region. They mounted a red digital camera to the wing of an old Piper airplane. The camera is capable of recording high-quality images at 30 frames per second while being zoomed in at 3x. They recorded 100 gigabytes of data that was later processed and examined, but showed no evidence of Greene. Detective Hornback followed up on every single tip.
Psychics from around the world called with information after looking into a crystal ball or having a dream. A retired police officer in Minden, Nevada, reported a sighting of a young man that fit the description of Greene at a Nevada gas station. A woman said she had given Greene and his dog a ride to Colorado, but Greene did not have a dog. Glasses were found near the Inyo Crater's trailhead less than 10 miles from Greene's campsite, but the prescription did not match. The police talked with campers in the lakes adjacent to Greene's. They interviewed the employees at the auto shop. No one had any concrete information. What frustrated them the most was that he was so experienced, but he didn't tell anyone where he was going. There's nothing wrong with sending a text and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go climb in the minarets today." That would solve a lot of problems. Detective Hornbeck said, Greene's sister began compiling facts and information, creating a Find Matthew Greene Facebook page. She did interviews with reporters. Friends started forum on climbing websites seeking information. Conversations were started and theories were tossed around. Where would Matthew Greene have gone? The MLPD press release was published in the local papers. Media outlets in Pennsylvania picked up the story, and a short news brief made it Los Angeles Times. What makes the minaret so appealing to climbers is also what makes the Rubbet Peak so dangerous for climbing. The Ritter Range is located within the Sierra Nevada, just west of the crest. The jagged landscape of the minarets and sharp summits of Mount Ritter and Banner Peak can be seen from all over Mammoth Lakes. The range stands tall and mighty, separating the Sierra from the rounder mountains in the coastal range. Unlike the granite that makes up much of the Sierra, the Ritter Range is metavolcanic rock, which was formed in several volcanic supereruptions, according to Alan Glassner, professor of geology at the University of North Carolina and author of a book about the geology in and around Yosemite. These eruptions produce hot volcanic rock deposits that flow much like an avalanche. Metavolcanic rocks are generally kind of sketchy for climbing because they flake apart easily and are not nearly as strong as granite. That's why they form spiky landform like the minarets instead of big smooth cliffs like Half Dome. It's been years since Matthew Greene disappeared from Mammoth Lakes, and still no trace of him has surfaced. In August 2014, his campground neighbors returned to the area and saw a missing persons sign. They called the police department and met with Detective Hornbeck and Bill Greene from Search and Rescue. They said they invited Matthew to go for a hike with them, but he declined. He did not say, or they could not remember where he was going. Since Greene was carrying an ice axe and crampons, Mount Ritter is a logical guess for his destination on July 17, 2013. The Southeast Glacier is the most prominent snow route in the range. The trailhead is accessible from public transportation, was in the chapter of the guidebook that he was carrying. For even the fittest of mountaineers, climbing Mount Ritter in one day is a huge feat, and the hike is 7 miles one way. And then it is another 4,000 vertical feet of off-trail hiking and climbing to reach the summit. At the time of Matt's disappearance, I had a pretty strong suspicion that he had gone to Mount Ritter, but after reflecting on it and revisiting the area last summer, I am not so sure, said John Greco. I don't think the climb itself would be particularly appealing to Matt. It seems like somewhat of a slog with limited technical challenges. Greene did not have any unknown pre-existing medical conditions, and an animal attack is doubtful, as no evidence were ever found. There has never been a human death by mountain lion or black bear in the region, and grizzly bears haven't been there since the 1920s. It seems likely that Matthew Greene had a fatal climbing accident. Maybe he would have set out to climb the region's tallest and most prolific mountain
on his last day in the area, but there is no hard evidence. If Matthew Greene hitchhiked like he had been known to do in the past, he could be anywhere. And since he had climbed in the minarets a few days prior to his disappearance, it is possible that the chapter of the guidebook was still in his pack. But there was enough suspicion that multiple search parties focused on the minarets and the Ritter Range. Greene's close friend and climbing partners went to Mammoth Lakes to search in August 2013, and a number of local climbers and mountaineers have spearheaded their own small search parties in search of Matthew. Dean Rosnaw, a former SAR officer and member, has spent nearly 30 days searching for Greene. In August 2013, Rosnaw focused on the minarets. But late that summer, he began to gravitate toward Ritter and Banner. In a search area so vast, what we are looking for is so small. One will literally have to step on the evidence to find it, Rosnaw said. A lot of gear has been hauled out of the wilderness areas that surround Mammoth Lakes, but none of it has been identified as Matthew Greene's. The unknown and lack of resolution is part of a grieving process unlike any other. When the snow started to fall in 2013, the search came to a halt and the missing person posters were taken down for the season. The family petitioned for and received a death certificate in Pennsylvania so they could settle his affairs. There has been no memorial service. The hardest part is the not knowing, said his friend Tom Davidoff. If he had let someone know where he was going, we have a completely different situation. But you can't get mad at him. We've all done it. Greene's closest friends and climbing partners each say they don't climb as much as they used to, and most of them can't really explain why, other than the disappearance of Matthew. There is a lingering feeling of disappearance and sorrow that just dampens their enthusiasm. Greco hasn't done any mountain climbing since Matt disappeared, with the exception of the searches that they did for him. He can attribute it to a lack of partners, work, and family responsibilities getting in the way, but in truth, I just haven't been motivated to make it happen, he said. In 2014, Greene's father, Robert, spent the summer in Mammoth Lakes. At 69 years old, he was slightly overweight and out of shape, but he began training so he was conditioned to hike in the High Sierra. He wanted to spend the summer in the mountains where his son is presumed dead, and he hiked nearly 700 miles that summer. He explored the trails that Matt had enjoyed. He searched with Rosnaw, and he climbed for the first time. Greco led Robert up Crystal Crag so he could stand on a summit that Matt had also stood on in the year prior. Greene's mother wanted him to get a taste of the kind of climbing Matt loved to do most, so he could hopefully understand the appeal and attraction. She just kept thinking about how Matt would have enjoyed watching his dad climb, something I'm sure he never would have considered doing before Matt's disappearance. Greene's mother, Patricia, visited Mammoth Lakes that summer for the first and only time for 1 week with her daughter. Not a hiker, Patricia spent most of the time in town, while Minto hit the trails with her father. She felt completely at peace and in awe of the beauty. But turning home just felt like she was turning her back on Matt and the possibility of finding him. She wished she could move on, but it's just impossible. To this day, no trace of Matthew Greene has ever been found.
As the final echoes of our journey into the unknown fade away, we find ourselves at an end of an enthralling 3-hour voyage through some of the most perplexing disappearances in our nation's history. From the mysterious corners of bustling cities to the silent, enigmatic expanses of our national parks, we have traversed a landscape rich in mystery and intrigue. I extend my deepest gratitude to you, our dedicated audience, for staying with us until the very end. Your presence and engagement are what breathe life into our channel. If you found yourself captivated by these tales, I gently encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new and upcoming content. Your support is what keeps our community thriving and allows us to continue unearthing these compelling stories. For those who wish to contribute further, please consider leaving a super comment. Any amount you choose to give helps immensely in our quest to bring more of these enthralling stories to your screens. Stories that intrigue, entertain, and perhaps even send a shiver down your spine. Once again, thank you for being part of this mysterious journey. Until our paths cross again in the next video, keep pondering the mysteries that surround us. At a universe of mystery, the search for answers never ends.